Welcome back to the channel. This is Trendy Storm and you are watching what if Naruto and Gaara built their own village. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share and subscribe to this channel. Now wasting no more time, let's start the story.
Sakura said, "Naruto, what did you want to talk to me about?" As they left the other people behind. "You said it was important?" Then he calmly said, "Sakura, do you want to go on a date with me?" "Naruto, you know what my answer will be. My heart is not with you. Just as much as you want to go out with me, I want to go out with Sasuke." "I thought you understood that," sternly replied Sakura. "It would never work out between us." "But Sasuke will be better. He doesn't even pay attention, focused only on his revenge. That kind of guy isn't for one such as you. You need someone who will pay attention to you and give you his all. He could never do that." Naruto cried out. Sakura appeared poised to strike him. Even now, Sakura has stood up for the vengeful Uchiha, saying, "He needs someone like me to not give up on him because he's been hurt badly." Naruto felt ill as a result. Naruto furiously stuffed his hands in his pocket and said, "And I haven't? That's just like a Konoha villager, hating me for something I was never guilty of doing. What makes Sasuke and I different?" Sakura didn't respond to the question. "Can you tell me that?" "Figured that. No one can see me for who I am. All they see is the nine-tailed fox." He's silent now. "That fox has never caused trouble for anyone or myself. But everyone still thinks that I can just change so drastically so fast, that I'll kill everyone in the village. It's not fair." Sakura had never considered it from Naruto's perspective. The demon had been sealed into his body, and she had known it for some time. However, she had never considered that to be the reason for his hatred. Her eyes grew pitying and compassionate. "Naruto," she said simply, placing one hand on his shoulder. "Is that why you did all those jokes when we were younger? Because everyone ignored you and that was the only way people would notice you?" She touched Naruto, but he jerked away. His eyes began to well up with tears, which he wiped away. "I don't need your pity. I don't need anyone's pity. All my life has been nothing but hell in this village. Hated and judged just for something that was never my fault, something that was out of my control. You and Sasuke are exactly the same, condescending and vain, only thinking of your precious reputation, what you think you want, no matter what it takes to get there." He started to leave. To prevent him from leaving, Sakura dashed ahead of him. He walked around her and said, "Naruto, don't let it get to you. We can figure this out. I don't know what I ever saw in you. Sasuke this, Sasuke that. That's all I ever hear. Even when that guy was completely useless and I saved you, it couldn't have possibly been me according to you. Only Sasuke is capable of doing that, at least according to you." Naruto began to scream. He practically screamed and fled, saying, "And, right now, for all I care, you can run to him. You two are good for each other. Man, I'm so sick of life in this village." Sakura cried. Naruto, wait, however, it was too late. Naruto had already left, heading somewhere only he knew. "Naruto." She took a moment to reflect. She went to talk to the Hokage after thinking, "I'll talk to the Hokage. Maybe the Hokage can help him." Ignoring the odd looks he received from the vile villagers, Naruto ran to his apartment. He caught a faint sound of someone worriedly calling his name. It had Hinata's voice. Although she had been among the few to truly be his friend and witness the true him, that didn't matter at the moment. He yelled, "Later Hinata," without waiting to see if she responded. He arrived at the now empty park by then. Every other child in Konoha had already joined their family for dinner, and since it was dangerous at night, they wouldn't be permitted to return tonight. Naruto had never shared meals with a family. Indeed, as a familyless orphan who had not yet been adopted, he had received care. He had always had decent clothes or enough food provided for him. They even covered his one-room apartment's rent. However, the actions had not been motivated by love. He was left to prepare his own meals after they simply dropped off the food. Additionally, the clothes were reluctantly given to him, as though they were unnecessary. But now he was older. They continued to cover his rent. When he eventually became a genin, however, he took on the duty of purchasing his own food and clothing, even though no one seemed to notice that he had done well. The fact that Hinata Hyuga was essentially one of the few people who genuinely cared about him as a person saddened him. Since he had already pushed her away, she didn't deserve to be pushed away either. He was also disappointed that no one was concerned enough to ensure that he returned home at a consistent time at night to prevent him from spending the night in the park. He had occasionally even dozed off there while gazing at the stars, remaining there through the night. Nobody had given a damn. Naruto recalled the beatings he had occasionally received for simply remaining in one place for longer than a few minutes. He had been dragged somewhere private and beaten during those beatings. Mothers would protect their children from him as he was being dragged away, acting as though he might suddenly snap and attempt to harm the children. Footsteps rushed to the park, and someone called his name. I'm not angry at the kids. I don't want to be angry at all, but what else can I do? By the sound of it, it was one of the chunin. Naruto Uzumaki. The voice cried out. Naruto said nothing. Naruto believed it was time for the villagers to accuse him of a crime so that he could face consequences. Most likely, he was being sought after by people throughout the town who were prepared to arrest him right away. Even though someone might be genuinely concerned about Naruto, he stayed silent and said, "If you can hear me, Naruto, please come out. You aren't in trouble. We just want to talk to you." Once again, Naruto was left to his thoughts after the chunin left. Maybe I should just leave now. Would anyone miss me? He thought. He knew Hinata would. And the Sans Gaara would be worried. He was fairly certain, however, that they were the only two. As he fell into a delightful sleep, he asked himself, maybe I should leave. But where would I go? Gaara was walking down the main road in the early morning, just after dawn, silently reflecting. He had been growing tired of his village as late, so he was taking a vacation from everything. In order to see the person who had fundamentally altered his life, he had made the decision to take a vacation and travel to Konoha. All he could hope was that Naruto would be as delighted to see him. Recently, Gaara and Naruto had been writing to each other. However, Naruto had yet to send a return letter, even though Gaara had written 3 times by now. He grinned and said aloud to himself, why I am going to make sure he's okay in person. He was aware that he was merely using this as a pretext to visit his friend. To be honest, he didn't give a damn whether there was an excuse or not. His friend was someone he wanted to see. The village still detested him for something that wasn't even his fault, so it's not like they would miss him. Indeed, they were likely relieved to have him gone for a while. Gaara accelerated as the high gates of Konoha came into view. When he eventually reached the gates, he paused at the checkpoint. He introduced himself to the guards, saying, I'm Gaara of the Sand. I was told I would be welcome here. The guards gave him a thorough examination while checking something on a clipboard. With a smile, they said, understood. Welcome to Konoha, Gaara of the Sand. Enjoy your stay in Konoha. As Gaara entered the village, she looked around for a man wearing a bright orange jumpsuit. He saw a member of his team, but he didn't see Naruto. The vivid pink hair suggested that it was Sakura. With hesitation, Gaara said, excuse me, Sakura. Sakura, who was sitting with her head in her hands, looked up. Her eyes were filled with regret and worry, and she appeared to be quite upset about something. She pretended to be happy as she said, Gaara, how are you doing? It sure is a surprise to see you here in Konoha. In an attempt to cover up whatever was bothering her. With a polite smile, Gaara said, yeah, surprised me too. But Naruto hasn't answered my last 3 letters. I was worried and decided to check on him in person. Do you happen to know where he is? Sakura appeared upset once more when Naruto's name was mentioned. I needed a break from my village anyway, so I decided to come here to see him. Depressed, she uttered, no one knows where he is. Gaara was taken aback to learn that Naruto and I had a big argument yesterday. He ran and we have not been able to find him since. Now more than ever, his friend needed him. Gaara gave her an awkward pat on the back and said, it's all my fault. I was so insensitive to his feelings. He could be dead for all we know, and it'll be my fault. I'll look for him on my own then. I'll see if I can find him, and if I can, get him to come back. Sakura was feeling better. Gaara nodded in agreement and said, thank you. I would go with you but, he would probably run again. A blonde shinobi approached Sakura and Gaara said, I'll start now. Thank you for telling me all of that. Gaara then left Sakura alone. He watched for Naruto, hoping he could build a mound of sand and use it to fly over the village and get a bird's eye perspective. However, that would create a commotion and postpone him becoming his friend. As he moved through the village, he came upon a park. There were plenty of hiding spots in the park. He said softly, I often hid in playgrounds like this. Maybe he is doing the same right now. He then entered the park and searched every hiding spot he could find. Gaara looked beneath a large slide after noticing an odd shadow beneath it. The sight of his friend dozing beneath the slide was his reward. He appeared to have been crying because his eyes were a little puffy. He was shivering, too. He was not wearing a jacket and had most likely dozed off in that manner during the night. Last night had been extremely cold, one of the final chilly evenings of the waning winter. He took off his own long jacket and draped it over his sleeping companion, whispering, Naruto. He made sand castles and other shapes in the sand as he sat down to wait until Naruto woke up on his own. He was working on a miniature model of a village that combined Suna and Konoha when Naruto shifted. causing the jacket to drop to the floor. Gaara was now out of sight after having to relocate earlier to make room for his sand building. Naruto lightly fingered the jacket. Who left this here? Crap, it's morning. If I get sick, I only have myself to blame for sleeping like this outside. He began to sneeze. Gaara grinned sincere as he entered his friend's line of sight. Gaara teased, morning. Why did you fall asleep here? Naruto shifted to stand up. Oh, and please watch my sand village. I've spent quite a bit of time working on it. Naruto glanced at Gaara's constructed village before turning to face her. He handed the coat back and inquired, how long have you been here then? Gaara put his jacket next to his enormous gourd, which held his sand, and explained, I've been in Konoha for about 2 hours now. I've been waiting for you to wake up for about an hour and a half of that time. I heard about the fight you had with Sakura. A lot of people are worried about you now. That wasn't my intention to fall asleep and worry them, but I was tired, the shy Naruto replied. Although he appeared emotionally and physically exhausted, Gaara felt he was referring to more than just physical exhaustion. Gaara sat down beside Naruto and said, and you weren't feeling the need for sleep. What else was bothering you? Naruto gave a shrug. As Gaara used the word friend, Naruto grinned and said, and don't say it's not important. As your friend, I won't let you. You haven't answered my letters. That's why I came here to check up on you. It's not like you. Naruto's expression darkened. I never got them. Probably the villagers just showing how much they hate me again. He grumbled. Gaara nodded and asked, do you really want to know what's bothering me? It's this place. I hate it. Everyone hates me just because of what I have inside of me. It's not my fault. I didn't do anything wrong. For the slightest thing I do to annoy them, I get beaten. You are one of the few that I can trust. And you are one of the few that see me as a person. Gaara didn't say anything for a while. Gaara questioned, why don't you leave? Why do you stay here then? Gaara could only give his friend a hug while he spoke, feeling Naruto's teary eyes fall on his bare arms. I can't do it alone. I try to stay positive and happy, but lately, that just hasn't been working out. I need help. I don't want to go alone. I don't like being alone. Gaara withdrew the embrace and gave his friend a direct look. Naruto looked at Gaara with hope and said, then don't do it alone. I also feel the need to leave my village. Let's change our lives for the better together. We can shed our last names, be just Naruto and Gaara, brothers, and start a new life elsewhere. As Naruto prepared to panic and depart at this very moment, he questioned, but what if we labeled missing Nin? Where would we go? I want to leave, but how? I don't know where we'll go, but I doubt they'll label us missing Nin. Remember, we're both hated by our villages. They won't miss us. And we don't know any of their military secrets. They don't have any ground to really do anything about it. And if they do, we will at least be together. We'll fight off anyone who tries to separate us. Naruto's eyes glowed with hope this time, much brighter. I can go pack right now. We'll swing by Suna, grab your stuff, and leave. I think I know where we might be welcome. Gaara grinned. And where would that be? Smiled Gaara. It's a bit far. In the land of snow. A while back I went on a mission there and the princess wanted me to stay there and help her rebuild her country. She's probably still there, wanting me to stay there. I'll go there, say you're my friend. She may let us both stay. Gaara cracked a grin. We have a plan of action. But what was your fight with Sakura about? Gaara inquired. Naruto gave a brief summary of their battle. Gaara appeared irate by the end. I'll hold my peace. But she is not in my good book right now. Ignoring the ninja's cries as they raced across town in search of the blonde, the two jinchuriki said, let's go. I'll show you my apartment. The most significant moment was when Sakura called his name upon seeing him. Naruto's face took on the appearance of a glare as he struggled to control his pain and rage. After Sakura's back ached, they arrived at Naruto's tiny apartment. It was a little disorganized. It had been several days since Naruto had cleaned. However, he quickly gathered his few possessions and crammed them into a bag. As he examined his pantry, which was primarily stocked with instant ramen, Gaara questioned, you live mainly off ramen, Naruto? Naruto smiled and asked, how do you survive without other foods? Naruto grinned broadly and replied, I eat other foods. But ramen is really quick and easy to make. Gaara was simply pleased to see Naruto at last reverting to his former self. I'm ready to go. It might be wise to go through the forest and get to the main road from there though. I doubt they'll let us leave without a fight otherwise. About halfway to Suna, the two jinchuriki had safely crossed the forest and were now on the main road. Naruto was relieved that there were no indications of a pursuit coming from Konoha. Leaving Hinata behind was the only thing he regretted. He had considered her a true friend. He didn't want to tear her away from her family, though. He knew she would try to follow, which is why he hadn't said goodbye. Naruto merely hoped she would comprehend what he had done. On the other hand, both boys were feeling very happy, knowing that they would soon be released from their home. Villages was the reason they were feeling so happy. They were eager to begin a new life in a distant nation that had probably never heard of jinchuriki or demons at all. They could just be themselves. Suddenly, Gaara said, "Hey, Naruto, maybe we should change our look soon." Naruto looked at him curiously. Gaara laughed as Naruto squinted his eyes and said, "Right now, everyone knows this is our ninja look. If we truly want to change on the inside, we should change our look on the outside as well. We should wait until we get the snow country then. See what the fashions are up there so we don't look like complete idiots," said Naruto. Gaara shrugged, happy enough with his appearance and with himself. Even Gaara's life in Suna had been better than Naruto's in Konoha, which was a sad truth to acknowledge. Nobody dared to mess with him because, at the very least, his parentage was known and he was feared, if not revered. While Naruto had no known family, he had his siblings there as well. Naruto frowned kindly as Gaara teased, "Does it matter? You always look like a complete idiot half the time anyway, no matter what you're wearing at the time." Naruto glanced at his current outfit and said, "In Suna, I'll see to it that you get some more stuff. At least a few more sets of clothes that fit properly." His typical bright orange pants had been swapped out for loose, fitting navy blue ones. His simple white shirt was a little too small. It was a little tight, but it still fit him. With a detached expression in his eyes, Naruto remarked casually, "I'll manage. I have always done so before." "Yes, you will. You'll deal with the new clothes that I give you in Suna. The time of your mistreatment has passed, as has mine. We're about to start living a new life." The boys couldn't help but smile. They had already begun to encourage one another to start expecting a little kindness in life and to stop letting each other feel sorry for themselves. However, Naruto found it more difficult to imagine. "Tell me about this princess who wanted you to stay there." Once more, Naruto shrugged. "Her name is Yukie Fujikaze. We met her when my team was assigned on a mission to protect her as she went home, against her will, I might add. Her producer wanted her to get home so she could reclaim her country. Well, after several failed attempts to run away, and a few hard fights, in which Sasuke and I got really beat up, she willingly took the throne. I even got her autograph. And despite her becoming the ruler of the country, she still acts. She changed a lot over the course of that mission." He chuckled. "It's because of you. Somehow you make the most unlikely people your friend. It took a lot to reach me. I'm who I am now thanks to you," Gaara replied. Naruto reddened. Gaara pointed ahead, and not even Naruto could miss the tall, multi-leveled wall enclosing the sand village. "Wow, we must have traveled fast. We're almost to Suna. Let me do the talking, okay?" Naruto questioned what time it was and replied, "Sure thing." They had been joined by two visitors. It appeared to be Temari and Kankuro, Gaara's siblings. "You're back sooner than expected. And you've brought Naruto." Temari hugged him tightly. "That's my thanks to you. My brother is totally a different person now thanks to you. He's so happy now, and it was you who caused that change." His lungs were constrained by Temari's tight hug, but he managed to say, "So I've heard." "Let the guy breathe," Kankuro yelled as he separated the two. Since Naruto was leaving his home village, he purposefully left that behind. "But really, thanks for everything you've done for us, especially Gaara. What are you two doing here? I never thought Naruto would leave Konoha if not on a mission, and he's not wearing his headband." Gaara interrupted. "We both need to wind down. So Naruto and I decided to vacation in the snow country for a little while. There's a friend there who should let us stay at her place. So he left his headband and stuff at home. We just came to get some of my stuff." As she made her way back to the border patrol, Temari yelled, "I'll let you in, Naruto. Enjoy your stay here until you leave for your vacation. Kankuro, get them settled in." "Will do," said Kankuro. "Come on. Naruto, you can stay at our place for free while you're here. If you need anything, don't hesitate to ask." Kankuro grimaced and gave in, telling them he and Temari would be home later. Actually, he needs some new clothes and a few other things. "I'll see to him, brother. You get back to border patrol. Baki might find out and you know how he reacts to distractions while on border patrol." Grinning, Gaara guided him through Suna's crowded streets. Naruto saw that many of the people looked at Gaara with fear and quickly averted their eyes. Gaara kept Naruto close to him as he said, "Don't mind them. Let's just get to the house." Finding a lost Naruto in the congested streets of Suna was the last thing he needed. He took a key from a keyring in his pocket and opened the front door to a large room, saying, "It's not much further now." He closed the door and locked it. "They know I'm leaving. That's why they're going along with it." That was the key word there. When I said vacation, they know I'm leaving. But don't worry, they won't report to Konoha about where we're going. Naruto let out a breath of relief. Stopping them now was the last thing they needed. If he was apprehended and tried for desertion, the villagers would jump at the chance to witness his death. Naruto went upstairs with Gaara and asked, "So will we stay here for a few days and then leave?" They appeared to be in Gaara's room when he opened a door. Gaara sank onto his bed after dropping his gourd and bag to the ground. Naruto gently placed his little bag on the ground and said, "Yeah. Drop your bag right there. We'll relax this evening. We'll get your things tomorrow and make sure we're ready." He leaned over and tossed some clothes to Naruto from his own dresser, saying, "We should bathe before dinner. We are covered in dust and sand, which is not bad for me, considering my affinity with sand. For now, wear those. We're about the same size. They should fit, and I'll let you take the first one." That night, Naruto and Gaara were just getting out of the sauna when Temari and Kankuro arrived home. "You wouldn't think we would need one in the desert like this. But there one is," Gaara replied. Both boys appeared to be slightly sunburned, Naruto more so than Gaara. They had entered the sauna after taking a bath and having a small snack. When Temari asked, Naruto smiled and said, "You looked like you were baked, Naruto." "First time in the sauna?" With a guilty nod, Naruto asked, "So is Naruto leaving his village too?" She entered the kitchen and began removing cooking utensils, saying, "In your case, Naruto, there's nothing to be ashamed of. Sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do." Gaara chuckled and said, "I'm making dinner tonight." He said, glaring at Kankuro, "So not only will it be edible, it'll be good." He said defensively, "I can cook just fine, thank you very much." From the kitchen, Temari yelled, "You guys, behave." Kankuro and Gaara exchanged derisive glances. Naruto returned to his seat to take in the spectacle of their typical family life. He wishes he had a family as active as this one. Temari approached him from behind. She waved her cooking ladle at her brother, who was by now wriggling on the floor, and said, "Maybe you'll find a special someone to enjoy a family with someday. It was obvious you didn't belong in Konoha." Up on deck, Naruto was taking in the fresh air that the wind and water combined to provide. It was their second day on the boat. He mentally noted to stay away from boats the next time they went. Because Gaara had gone green the instant the boat had begun to move, feeling as though she might throw up at any moment. As soon as possible, he went below deck and lay down, trying to keep his mind busy. Fortunately, the crew had a lot of seasickness medication on hand because they knew they would soon be serving some desert dwellers. There were very few, if any, large bodies of natural water because Gaara had grown up in the desert. To him, boats were completely alien. And Gaara had immediately looked forward to riding on it after seeing how much water they would be using. Until the seasickness struck, that is. While Naruto considered this, Gaara walked shakily onto the deck. Naruto questioned, "Gaara, are you sure you're up to this?" With his back to the water, Gaara leaned against the railing and grunted. With a slightly pale face, Gaara smiled and said, "There's only so long I can stay cooped up. I need to feel the wind on my face. And besides, how will I get used to it if I don't deal with it? The journey is halfway over now. Soon we'll be off this boat. In the future, we'll avoid boat travel if you like. At least we have not been pursued. Maybe they just don't miss us after all." Naruto replied with a shrug. Gaara grinned and shook his head, saying, "It doesn't really matter, now does it?" Gaara said gravely, "Who cares about them? We don't need them anymore." With equal seriousness, Naruto affirmed, "Yeah. All we need is each other." With his eyes narrowed, Naruto said, "Hey, what's that?" Gaara verified, "People. Walking on water?" They realized they were renegade ninja as they approached. As he fled, Naruto remarked, "I'm going to tell the captain this. Keep an eye on them." "Hey, Captain." The ship's captain said, turning to face the blonde shinobi. "We have rogue ninja approaching the ship. My friend and I are ninja, so we'll take care of them. But can you tell the passengers to go below deck for a while we take care of them?" "Aye," said the captain. The captain used the intercom to say, "Just try not to bloody up the decks. We just had them cleaned. Aye, ladies and gents. We apparently have some scalawags seeking to cause us some trouble. A couple of kind ninjas have volunteered to take care of them. But until they're done, they would like to avoid casualties by you all going below deck for a little while. I'd like you to oblige them." The other clients murmured softly and went below deck. Naruto stated, "We don't have our weapons. Gaara gave a shrug. I have my sand. And surely you know some offensive techniques. Gaara replied. As the renegade ninja assembled on the deck, Naruto gave a nod. One of them, who was clearly the leader, gave the order, just call the rest of the passengers back out and we'll go easy on you. We greatly outnumber you, just give up. Both boys smiled broadly. Naruto said, that's not gonna happen. You ready, Gaara? Then Gaara said, yep. Are you? Both boys screamed, believe it. I am ready. Let's go, at once. In order to trip anyone who approached him, Gaara summoned his sand from his gourd and used it as a whip. He covered their faces with sand after they were on the ground, and he felt them faint through his sand. In this manner, he dispatched half of the renegade ninja with ease. He glanced at Naruto to check on him. He was keeping up, using his shadow clones to charge several opponents at once. However, Gaara saw that there wasn't much more he could do while he was standing his ground. Naruto was able to concentrate more on a small number of opponents after Gaara used his sand whip to eliminate some of them. That will need to be fixed. He lacks proper training. Gaara pondered. He seems to have learned as little as possible from them. Did they wish for him to be killed in battle? Angrily, Gaara asked himself. Not even Suna's citizens had descended this far. All but one of them were consumed by Gaara. The rogue nin's leader was now forced into a corner. Naruto had just called forth more clones, and Gaara had his whip turned against him. There was only one option visible to the leader when he looked around. He rushed towards Naruto. Both Naruto and the rogue nin's leader struck the gate that allowed passengers to board the ship with enough force to bend steel. Both fell into the water as soon as the weak lock gave way under the strain. Naruto! Exclaimed Gaara as she dashed to the smashed gate. There were raging ripples and waves in the water. The two appeared to be sparring underwater. Even though his sand might be rendered useless, he called out, Naruto, hold on, and got ready to dive in after his friend. He had no idea what would happen because he had never engaged in sand combat underwater. Finally, Naruto came out. Naruto was breathing heavily and his hair was soaked all the way down to his skin. He got up on the water and pulled the unconscious renegade ninja leader along with him, saying, we're fine. Don't take the chance of ruining your sand. What do we do with these guys? In front of his friend, Gaara worked the sand into a platform that was barely above the water. Naruto stepped onto the sand platform, pulling his unconscious opponent with him, and said, first you get on that. I'll bring you back onto the deck. He dropped the man close to his unconscious subordinates as he re-entered the deck. 4 individuals appeared in the group. With the exception of wearing forehead protectors, all 4 passengers were dressed normally. Gaara inquired, you're from the Hidden Rain village? A very tall woman who was part of the group stepped up. My name Taisha. And yes, we're a team from the Hidden Rain village. We were assigned on a mission to capture these guys, as they're from our village. We want them back alive, so with your permission, we could take over guarding them and return with them to our country as soon as the boat docks. Taisha replied. Naruto questioned doubtfully, only 4 people, stopping to count the rogue ninjas. To guard 10 rogue ninja? He asked. We were ordered to have captured them by the time this boat docks, she clarified. We have back up waiting for us. Gaara said simply, ah. The leader shrugged it off and said, we're sorry we took your job. As the rest of her team started to transport the renegade ninja to a storage room below deck, Taisha questioned, as long as the mission is completed, it doesn't by whom. Where are you 2 from and what mission are you on? I'm Gaara, from Suna, and the blonde is my friend Naruto, from Konoha. But we are only going on vacation and not on a mission. We just happened to spot them and wanted to see that no one got hurt. Naruto was sneezing when he was introduced. Naruto went to their room below deck without complaining, saying, go change into some dry clothes. You'll get sick otherwise. He bowed respectfully and rushed after Naruto, saying, if you'll excuse me, I would like to go check on my friend. Before going into their room, he knocked. He arrived in time to see Naruto's chest and back covered in numerous bruises after entering the room and shutting the door behind him. After locating his first aid kit among his belongings, Gaara inquired, you were hurt that bad? Nah. He gestured to a new bruise on his shoulder and said, the stupid guy only gave me 2 injuries. He spat and a tooth emerged, saying, that's one of them. He also knocked a tooth out with a strong right hook. He doubtfully questioned Naruto, then what are all those bruises? It's okay to admit you took a worse beating. Those aren't from the fight. About a week before you came to Konoha, the villagers decided to beat me for no good reason. That's from them. Gaara was taken aback by this. The first aid kit dropped out of Gaara's hands. They were a lot worse then. But I have a fast recovery rate, so the bruises are the only thing that remain now. Gaara insisted, "Why didn't you do anything?" Naruto gave a shrug. Naruto fell silent as he collapsed on his bed, saying, "1. They were trying to get me to do that to get me into trouble. And 2. Fighting back would have only made it worse than it already was." In an attempt to shift the conversation, he exclaimed, "Man, that water was cold." Gaara made the decision to comply. He smiled as he noticed Naruto sleeping with his blanket still folded at the foot of the bed. Probably was. Winter is just now leaving. What you felt was the last vestiges of winter making itself known. After putting his friend under cover, Gaara lay down and went to sleep. When they eventually got off the boat, Gaara was relieved. Even though he was no longer experiencing seasickness, he still desired to be on firm, stationary ground once more. When the gangplank was completely down, Gaara was prepared to simply bolt from the boat. Gaara and Naruto were finally up on deck with everything they owned when the boat completely stopped. Unfortunately, they were forced to wait an additional minute. One of the crew members had made a temporary lock to keep the gate closed after Naruto unintentionally broke it, for which the captain did not hold him accountable. Because it was a highly improvised lock, the crewman had to come out and undo it. The captain had said, "Thank you too for what you did. I'll be sure to replace that lock with something much stronger when I get to port. If it could break so easily, it's a safety hazard to my passengers." Gaara nearly fled the boat when the lock was finally undone. More calmly, Naruto trailed behind, escorting the renegade ninja who had attacked the boat with the ninja from the secret rain village. Gaara sat on a bench close to the port and said gratefully, "I'm glad to be off the boat. I thought this was the land of snow, Naruto. It's spring here." Naruto clarified, "They must have succeeded then. It used to be snowy all year round. But they had some unfinished research that gave them spring for a short time. Yukie said she would finish that research to give all of her people spring. They must have normal weather now. Bet Yukie is loving that." Naruto smiled broadly. "I'm curious about her health. Now that I think about it, how are we going to enter to see her?" "I doubt she just lets anyone in to see her," Gaara admitted. "True, she is the head of her people, after all." "Look. They're there," a recognizable voice said, and Naruto turned to see Yukie, the land's ruler, and a blonde girl with light purple eyes come toward them, nearly running. "Shion is here. Why is she leaving the demon country? And we were met by Yukie herself. Wow," Naruto muttered. "How were they aware of our arrival?" Gaara's eyes narrowed as he asked. "Shion possesses the capacity for foresight. She must have come here to tell Yukie after noticing us. Her visions are very strong. In fact, she anticipated my demise." Naruto laughed in response. "So why are you still alive?" Gaara asked mockingly, and Naruto smiled. "You really altered your own fate." Naruto grinned and nodded in response to Gaara's question. "If anyone could have done that, it would be you. I wasn't about to pass away. I still wanted to be the Hokage at the time. However, I have clearly given up on that. But it doesn't really matter now," Naruto said. Shion arrived and gave Gaara a questioning glance, a smile spreading across her already glowing face. Gaara turned away, embarrassed. Yukie remarked, "So you two came after all. I was hoping you would change your ways someday. You have, too. Greetings from the land of spring." "I'm grateful. Gaara is a friend of mine. We both want to move in here going forward, if that's okay with you." "Naturally, we'll lend a hand however we can," Naruto inquired. "Since my nation is still rebuilding, you will both be warmly received here. You two could be of great assistance to us. Why don't I buy you two dinner? Or would you both prefer to take a nap first?" Yukie remarked, "You must be exhausted from your journey." "We're all right. For now, I've gotten as much sleep as I can. I suffer from insomnia. I only get a few hours of sleep at a time." Gaara answered, and Naruto is fully rested as well. Shion gave him a shy smile. "My palace is where we'll go. You'll eat first. Rate food there. By the way, Shion now resides here as well." According to her, she had a vision and realized that this was where she belonged. But enough. A carriage pulled up, and the driver got out and let them all in. "Is that everything you own?" Seeing only their little bags, Yukie inquired. Shion and Yukie entered first, and Gaara said, "We packed lightly, Your Majesty." As everyone took their seats and the driver closed the door behind them, the carriage began to move. "In private, call me Yukie," she told them. "We're all friends here. Now, Shion suggested to me that I prepare a place for you two. Would you prefer separate accommodations or a shared space? In either case, I can make arrangements." The two boys exchanged glances before Gaara responded on their behalf, saying, "We'll share a place. Despite the fact that we are not even related and come from entirely different villages, we have chosen to call each other brothers. I'll make sure it's recorded in that manner. In other words, you two will be formally brothers. No one will have any doubts. However, your home is now prepared. Shion and I will show you around after we finish our meal. Yukie clarified, she did all the decorating. How long have you been here? Shion, Naruto inquired. For the past month or so. I had a vision more than a month ago, telling me that this was where I belonged. So I came here after packing up. I am no longer the demon country's priestess. This is just Shion. That's the kind of person I've always aspired to be, she said in a lively voice. Gaara said, it seems like all three wanted a fresh start from somewhere. How are the two of you leaving your villages? Shion questioned, surely they didn't just let you go. Even they don't miss us. The pain we experienced there prompted us to leave. Except for a handful, everyone genuinely detested us. Naruto stated somewhat solemnly, only Hinata probably really misses me. There was now a hint of melancholy in his voice. They're probably celebrating us being gone just about now. Naruto, you'll see her again soon. I've anticipated it, however, that was the only thing I could see. The conditions that will precede it are unknown to me. However, it won't be because she's in trouble. The driver opened the door as the carriage jolted to a stop. With a formal bow, he said, we've arrived, Your Majesty. He assisted the two women. Naruto recalled the last time he had seen this castle, when a messenger with a bird on his arm ran out the door. Both Naruto and Gaara saw the mark of Konoha and Suna on the scroll on its back, and the messenger said, this has arrived, Your Majesty. It originates in our villages. Naruto said, with your permission, Your Majesty, I'll read it. Yukie nodded, and Naruto took the letter off the patient bird's back. What does it say? Yukie said, and the messenger nodded, bowed, and departed. Let the animal rest a few days and set it loose again after. Yukie inquired. Some ninjas are on their way here. Naruto replied, they'll be here in 5 days. They want to have a peaceful conversation with Gaara and me. I'll let it, but I'll do my best to support you, Yukie said, and Shion put his hand on Gaara's shoulder. It will be all right, Shion said, adding, I'll also be there for you as well, I swear. Naruto and Gaara had been in the land of spring. It was no longer known as the land of snow, for 4 days now, and the ninja from Suna and Konoha were scheduled to arrive the following day. Despite their claims of peace, the two ninja had left their home villages without their leader's consent, so neither of them was looking forward to the meeting. However, Shion had chosen and furnished their house beautifully, and Gaara's room was all earth tones, which Gaara loved, and it was very natural. Naruto's room, on the other hand, was mostly black, blue, and bright orange, with blended blue walls, softer blue curtains, black and orange blankets, sheets, and pillowcases, a desk, a comfortable chair with wheels on the bottom, and a few other items that made them feel very comfortable. Both boys were very at ease in their room. Shion pursued the two boys that afternoon and pulled them to one of the house's empty rooms, which was essentially divided by a large dark sheet that was hung from the ceiling. Gaara, you're on the far side of the room, Shion said. You are on this side, Naruto. I worked with Yukie to create a fresh look for you both. It will help draw attention to the fact that you are now strangers. Proceed. Put the clothes on, Shion gave them the order, pushed them into the room, and walked out. Shion occasionally exhibits a strong will. We can at least try them on. Naruto admitted, and Gaara, who was also intrigued, agreed. There was something about Shion that made him feel really happy. A few minutes later, Naruto announced to Shion that they were finished as he peered out the door. Awesome, let's check to see how Yukie and I performed. It seems we did well, Shion said as Gaara entered the room and walked to Naruto's side. We spent several hours discussing what exactly we should do. Naruto was wearing black baggy cargo pants with large pockets, and a tight bright orange muscle shirt made it clear that he was very muscular, even though he had not fought back when he had been abused. His remarkable regeneration had ensured that he had no scars, let alone any visible ones, which was unusual for Gaara because Naruto had told him about some of the fights he had been in, and he was very prone to serious injuries that required hospitalization, but his entire body was free of scars. Wearing flame red baggy pants, Gaara's only real weapon was his sand, for which he now had a new, more fashionable gourd that was smaller, more flexible, but just as tough as his old one and held just as much sand as his old one. The new gourd was worn over a black regular shirt. Shion gave them both a small box containing new shoes, which were similar to some of the ninja shoes they had seen on other people. They were almost like boots, with the exception that their toes could be seen, so they were similar to their old ones but a little higher. Both pairs were black. What are your thoughts, both of you? We provided you with large pockets to store your shuriken and kunai, Naruto. Both of the jinchuriki expressed their love for their new appearance, saying, "Oh, while I'm thinking about it, it's easily accessible and reinforced so the sharp points won't tear up your clothes." Shion clarified. "Yukie would like to start a ninja program here with your help," Shion said abruptly. "However, I fail to see why they are referred to as hidden villages. Everyone is aware of their location. Gaara and I don't believe we are in a position to. Neither of us received a promotion to chunin because of some issues at our chunin exams. We possess chunin's strength. However," Naruto clarified, "we are still only genin, ranked ninja. Oh no, this nation still desires one, though. We might be able to work something out once things settle down," Shion said. The ninja from Suna and Konoha arrived the following day, and Shion, who had anticipated their arrival, made it possible for them to be prepared to welcome the ninja who had traveled so far. They met in one of the palace's formal meeting halls, with Yukie, representing her country, Shion, Naruto, and Gaara proudly wearing their new appearance on one side of the table, and 9 people from Konoha on the other. 10.10. Hinata, a Junin named Yamato, Naruto's replacement on his team, a very pale man named Sai, and a very bored-looking Shikamaru. Naruto was pleased to see Hinata again, and she appeared equally delighted to see him. And Gaara recognized all of the Sand Ninja. His own siblings, Kankuro and Tamari, had arrived. Baki, the Sand siblings' Junin instructor, had joined the mission. And Matsuri, a ninja slightly younger than Gaara, who had always questioned why Matsuri had never been afraid of him, even going so far as to be his friend. Only after Naruto had transformed Gaara had he started to let her in. He waved at Matsuri, who enthusiastically returned the gesture. "Not to mention my nation, I want to welcome each and every one of you to my palace." Although Yukie was dressed formally, she said, "I know that tensions may get high today, but I would like to see, if at all possible, that nothing goes wrong or bad this day. If we truly wanted to stir up trouble, we would have brought Sakura and Sasuke," Yamato said, adding, "We have no intentions of breaking the peace we have right now, Your Majesty. This day, the Konoha ninja won't cause any trouble. I promise that the Sand Ninja will act appropriately and not cause any issues. I am Suna's Junin team leader," Baki said formally. "My name is Baki." "Well, that's good." Yukie pointed to Naruto, Gaara, and Shion and said, "These 3 over here have also promised me that they won't cause trouble if you don't. Having stated that, I would like to know why this visit is being made." Baki and Yamato started talking simultaneously, and Baki gestured for Yamato to go on, saying, "We know why these 2 went." Additionally, the Hokage and Kazekage concur that this was in their best interests. In any case, they will be properly welcomed back if they ever wish to visit or return. However, they are also free to remain here if they so desire. "That's excellent. Here, we are really content," Gaara said. "I must agree with that." Baki let out a loud laugh as Naruto continued, "But I don't think 9 people were required to come all this way just to say that. The reason for this sizable group is that both Konoha and Suna villages believe that since ninjas are now residing there, their talents shouldn't be wasted. We could help you establish your own ninja school and eventually have ninja from the land of spring in this world if you'd like, though you're under no obligation to do so. It could be done, but it would take time. Here, we would help you get started for a while. And we only observe your development from a distance when you're ready," Baki remarked. "We'd really like to get one going. However, Naruto and Gaara stated that they couldn't accomplish that with their current level. How would we approach it?" Yukie asked the crowd. "Later, we can get together and discuss the technical details. However, I believe we should let the younger ones catch up for the time being." Baki concluded. They were very worried about their brother. "Tamari and Kankuro," he said, pointing to the 2 he had just mentioned, "are Gaara's siblings. And Hinata," Yamato wrote, gesturing to Hinata, "has been very concerned about Naruto here." "Hinata," Naruto said, "I apologize for causing you any anxiety. Before coming here, you were one of my only friends." Naruto stated, "I didn't want to cause you any problems with your family." "Naruto, don't worry about it. I'm sure you expected me to try to join you. You were correct. If I had known, I would have attempted to follow you. I was upset for a while after realizing you were gone. However, I later realized that you were only acting in my best interests." Hinata told Naruto, who was certain that Hinata would never forgive him, "You were acting like a true friend." Sai had no desire to meet with the person he had replaced, and 10.10 wanted to know exactly what she was going to do, even though she wanted to make sure Naruto was okay. The younger generation was told they could leave if they wanted to, and Shion, Hinata, and Naruto left, followed by the Sand siblings and Matsuri. Shikamaru stayed behind because he would be the one driving all of this. Even though some of her family members had been among those who had actively hated him, 10.10 had at least been polite and courteous to him. Even though she had not gotten close to the blonde, she would have the opportunity to do so later, and judging by his appearance, he looked happier and healthier than he had ever been in Konoha. We went to Naruto and Gaara's house with Hinata, Shien, Naruto, Matsuri, Gaara, Temari, and Kankuro. After counting everyone, Gaara said, "So we'll need enough dinner for 7 people." He was considering what he could fix that would have enough but not take forever. "Gaara, I could easily make something for all of us," Naruto replied. Gaara joked, "I think they need something better than ramen every night." "I'm not limited to making ramen." The others laughed heartily as Naruto yelled, "I could assist him in preparing Gaara. I adore cooking." Hinata made the offer, but Naruto rejected it with a shake of his head. "Hinata, you are a guest. I couldn't allow you to do that." Hinata took the initiative this time. "I'm not bothered at all." Hinata pulled him to the kitchen and said, "We can catch up while we cook." Gaara chuckled at the sight of his friend being pulled in such a manner. "Gaara, you have no right to laugh. I see how you and Shien get along," Temari said firmly. "You seem to want her to, against your will, bring you into the kitchen so you can cook and do other things, don't you?" Gaara blanched at Temari's sly suggestion. "Now, if only we could find someone for our beloved Naruto. Being loved for who he is something he values greatly." After the meeting was adjourned, 10.10 and the others who had stayed behind joined those who had left, and they stayed up until 11 o'clock. If Baki and Yamato hadn't come to pick them up, they would have stayed up later, but everyone, including Naruto and Gaara, was being forced to assist the following day. The following day, they were searching for a potential location for the school. If they couldn't find one, they would have to build one. Yukie had recommended an old building close to the town center, and after careful examination, it was determined to be suitable for the academy that would soon be there. However, first a few things had to happen. Some of the place had become dilapidated, so Gaara was sent to find a good carpenter, and 10.10 and Temari were sent to the palace to get cleaning supplies because the place desperately needed a thorough cleaning. Gaara, Temari, and 10.10 returned around the same time. "All right, we thoroughly cleaned this building." As Shikamaru was the one who had to figure out everything they would need, he was the only one exempt from this. Hinata was all too happy about this and encouraged everyone to do a good job, occasionally humming a cheerful little tune as she did everything that was asked of her without complaining. Naruto complied without protest. Everyone took a grateful break when Yukie and Shien stopped by around lunchtime with lunch for everyone. Shien made sure to sit next to Gaara because she found something about him fascinating, and Gaara appeared to be reciprocating the love Shien showed him. Shien told them, "Okay, I'll be staying here to help." Gaara became happier upon hearing this, and they managed to clean the entire building in a single day. The carpenter had examined the building and would come back the following day to start the work. All of the younger ninjas were at Naruto's place that night, but 2 of them were missing. Gaara and Shien. "Naruto," Temari said, "where's Gaara?" Naruto smiled and replied, "At the moment, I'm going for a walk." "Where is Shien now?" Kankuro inquired, and Naruto's smile widened. Naruto replied slyly, "Taking a walk. And before you ask, yes, they're together." Temari and Kankuro exchanged a smile, and Naruto closed his eyes as he lay down on the couch. Those 2 were in quite a good mood this afternoon. Naruto was in a unique mood right now, and he was enjoying it. At that point, Shikamaru had to enter with a heavy stack of paper in his arms. The papers were divided into thick packets at even intervals, and he gave one to each of the ninja in attendance. When Naruto refused to take his, Shikamaru dropped it in his face. "Awaken. I'm the only lazy bum ninja around here," he commanded. "What is this?" Shikamaru sighed and did not respond to Naruto's cross-minded question, so Naruto looked through it and saw what appeared to be the schedule and plans for the Ninja Academy. Shikamaru clarified, "We're only here for a short time, to teach the kids the fundamentals. After that, it will be up to you and Gaara to carry on. Get acquainted with this packet. It will serve as the first few years' guidelines." Shikamaru added, placing another packet next to Naruto, "Oh, and give this to Gaara." They would begin with a class full of children, who would be taught the fundamentals and, after being promoted to genin, would train regularly and be sent on missions throughout the nation, always accompanied by someone of at least chunin rank. Shikamaru had to depart, telling the other ninja that Baki and Yamato wanted them back at the palace for the night, which left Naruto alone for the night, allowing him some time to read the packet in peace. Naruto and Gaara would receive some intense training, further preparing them for the roles they were about to assume. Thus, we will serve as teachers for the following generation. Hey, I wonder how they will turn out. He read some memos at the back. She will be staying longer with Temari and Kankuro. All three will assist, as will Matsuri. Hinata will also ask her father for permission to stay for a little while longer. That would be pleasant. They had some possible ninja symbols for their headbands, and Naruto liked the sun design better than the others. No respectable ninja should be forced to run with a flower symbol carved into their forehead protectors. Naruto read more of the memos and discovered that Shien would help keep the school afloat after Shikamaru and the others left. Naruto handed Gaara the extra packet and said, "Shikamaru dropped this off for you. Did you enjoy spending time with Shien?" "Yes, we did. And this is from Yukie," Gaara said, passing him a box containing a vest that oddly resembled armor made of chakra? Naruto questioned, questioning his own vision. "Yes. The most recent type." In response, Gaara showed Naruto his, which he had already put on, saying, "This will help us stand up to enemies stronger than us until we get strong enough to be considered Junins." Naruto tapped the armor's power source and warned, "Gaara, there's one thing to be wary of. Don't let our two power sources come into contact." "Why not?" Gaara inquired. With a single word and a hand gesture that could only be that word, Naruto exclaimed, "Boom!" Naruto shouted, giggling, "I've seen these things collide before. Electricity erupts everywhere as they go off. It didn't seem like fun." Gaara had to concur, as it didn't sound like something he wanted to do or find enjoyable. "I was asked to relay a message by Hinata." Naruto smiled and said, "She asked me to tell you that her father allowed her to stay here longer. Kankuro, Matsuri, and Temari are also remaining longer." Naruto said to Gaara, "Say, how many rooms do we have in this house? The first generation of ninja in this village are depending on us to see them through." Gaara used his fingers to count off. 6, ours included. "Why?" Gaara asked. "Perhaps we could all live here together, I thought. That is, if you consented to it. There would be some crowding. But vibrant. In this manner, we can truly finish all of the tasks that need to be completed here. We also have 2 restrooms here. In addition, we have 3 boys and 3 girls. Each gender has its own bathroom. Additionally, we would communicate constantly." Gaara concluded, "I think we talk to the others who are staying and see what they think. And this house is also fairly large. Who knows?" With his spirit and mind completely at ease, Naruto remarked, "Maybe we can be a happy family." Temari and Kankuro made the decision to remain with Naruto and Gaara. They said it was only fitting for family members to live together and now regarded Naruto as their brother as well. However, Matsuri and Hinata had no desire to live in such a congested area. Yukie said they could have a house, so they made the decision to move in together. At the moment, the royals were covering their rent and utilities because the work they were doing did not yet pay, but it would in the future. Also, Gaara and Shien had been together much more. One evening while Temari was preparing dinner, Gaara remarked, "Shien is amazing." Naruto responded with a life, "At first, we couldn't stand each other. We really didn't mix at all. But we got over that eventually." Gaara questioned, "Why does that not surprise me?" Naruto responded immaturely, sticking out his tongue at his fellow jinchuriki, "It was that way with us. We really wanted to beat the crap out of each other. And you and Yukie didn't mix very well at first but are now close. Really, did you make all your friends like this?" At the moment, Gaara was seated cross-legged on the sofa. For some strange reason, Naruto was using his bare feet to channel chakra while walking on the ceiling. Outside, Kankuro was training with his puppets and playing with them, or so they believed, as Shien entered now, looking distressed. He clarified, "She said she really needed to talk to you too." Kankuro returned outside after saying, "When I asked why, she said it was private." Naruto leapt down to join them, landing on his feet as Gaara stood up. Naruto immediately said, "If you'd like, we can go to one of our rooms and talk." They entered Gaara's room since it was the closest. Shien took a seat on the windowsill. Naruto collapsed into a beanbag chair in the corner, and Gaara took a seat on his bed. Naruto questioned, "What do you need to speak to us about?" Shien inhaled deeply. 3 jinchuriki like yourselves are on their way here. 1 is a young girl who lost control of her demon and is going berserk. 2 are chasing after, trying to return her to normal, without success. I've seen this in a vision," she clarified. "I asked Yukie to look more into this matter. We found out that many of the ninja villages want to see her dead. But the 2 trying to save her, since they are also jinchuriki, are trying to save her." Gaara said, "They are on their way here." Shien gave a nod. "I think that those 3 are the reason you were meant to be here." The berserking demon would have come with or without you here. This way one life can be saved and you too can help a jinchuriki. You too must feel compelled to save her from herself and her inner demon. Shien stated clearly. This was how Naruto and Gaara both felt. I've told Captain Yamato this. It seems he has a special ability to control the tailed beasts. If the demon can be made to stay still, he can return her to normal. This was a relief to both boys. They both experienced what it was like to have a demon inside of them. At one point, Gaara's demon had even taken control of his own body. Additionally, Naruto had also approached it perilously. Recalling the moment when he had voluntarily allowed the one-tailed beast, Shukaku, to take charge, Gaara shuddered. He had sworn never to do that again after that. With hope, Gaara inquired, "Do you know what made her lose control?" Shien gave a no shake. Naruto and Gaara both sighed simultaneously. "Well, bro," Gaara responded, "it looks like we have our first mission here." Naruto gave a nod. "Yep, looks like we're right, but we'll need help." Shien went on, "The others are going to do what they can." Someone knocked and heavy footsteps came up the stairs. "But it'd be best to lure her out of the city and somewhere secluded. It's going to be one messy fight." Someone said, excuse me for interrupting." Naruto recognized Hinata as the speaker. "The queen would like to see you and Gaara, Naruto," she said ASAP. Naruto said, "Tell her we're coming," and stood up. Gaara nodded, and Shien joined them by the door. "Shall we see what Yukie wants?" Gaara asked. The Yukie was waiting for them in a private meeting room at the palace when they all arrived. After making their presence known, Naruto and Gaara went into the room. As they walked in, Yukie and two of the people seated next to her looked up. They both wore the hidden Cloud Village headband. Among them was a young lady, perhaps 20 years of age. She had honey-colored brown eyes and blonde, almost brown hair. She was dressed in black pants and a tight, form-fitting black shirt. When she saw them, her eyes narrowed, and Naruto thought she saw them briefly flash blue. She introduced herself as Yugito Ni. "And I am Kirahachi." The other individual stated. This individual was male. He had a goatee mustache and short blonde hair. His sunglasses obscured the color of his eyes. He was dressed in a one-armed white vest with pockets and black pants. His lower arms were covered in white gauntlets with 3 thick black stripes and a black circle on the back of the hand. As Yugito started talking, Gaara and Naruto sat down and introduced themselves. "We came here to seek you two's help. Kira and I are jinchuriki just like yourselves. A fellow jinchuriki, a young girl named Kiana, has lost control of the demon inside her and is currently rampaging. We were hoping you two would help us save her. Everyone else only wants to see her dead." "Hey, you two," Kira responded. "What kind of tailed beasts do you have?" "I am the ox. Cephalopod, the 8 tails. Yugito is the 2-tailed cat, also called Nibi. What about you two?" "I have the 9-tailed fox. Kyubi no Kitsune is what the people in my former village called it." Naruto responded with kindness. Kira and Yugito appeared impressed by this assertion. Gaara added, "And I have the 1-tailed beast, Shukaku." Yugito nodded in response to the statement. "We're both willing to help a fellow jinchuriki. But we need more information." "Kiana has the 6-tailed hawk sealed within her. She's an orphan from a very small ninja village, the Hidden Waterfall Village. We know she's coming here, but we don't know why," Kira clarified. "We're determined to save her. The ninja villages are what condemned her to this fate. They sealed it in her at a young age. And when she could no longer be their living weapon for a short time due to injuries, the villagers in her home grew angry, hurting her emotionally. That's why she lost control. Can you two still help us?" "Of course," said Naruto. "We will always help out fellow jinchuriki. Shien, a friend of ours, has suggested we draw her out to a place outside of the city." Yugito said, "That's all fine and well, but how will we return her to normal, short of killing her? A ninja from Konoha here has the ability to control the tailed beasts. If we can get her to stay still, he can return her to normal." Naruto replied. "The other ninja from Suna and Konoha, who are here to help start a ninja school going, are going to help out if at all possible. I've never fought another tailed beast except Shukaku here. We became friends after that. So I don't know how to deal with this one." Yugito chuckled. She questioned incredulously, "You two fought each other as tailed beasts and are friends now?" Both Naruto and Gaara nodded and grinned. "Now that's a story that I would like to hear someday." Technically, only Gaara was in his tailed beast form. I only drew on the chakra of the 9 Tailed fox and transformed my partner, who I was fighting with at the time, into the 9-tailed fox. My partner at the time was the giant toad Gamabunta. We were both beaten senseless eventually. Naruto laughed. This made Kira laugh a lot. He said, "What a ways you two have come." Kira wiped away a tear from his eye and said, "From enemies to almost brothers." Gaara clarified, "Naruto has an unusual gift. He can make anyone his friend. They may start out as enemies or rivals, but they will end up being friends. He changes them for the better somehow. I don't even think he's aware of what's he doing when he does it." Yukie cursed, "I can assure you of that. When we first met, I hated him. And now here we are, not only very good friends, but close allies as well. He certainly does have a rare ability to change people for the better." Yugito and Kira exchanged glances. Yugito remarked, "Maybe he can help Kina then. Because of her past, she has no self-confidence and hates other people. She's on the path to her own destruction. She only let Kira and I get to know her because of the fact that we were all jinchuriki. Could you please try to help her, Naruto? I don't want to see her like this anymore. She's such a precious friend." Naruto's expression became preoccupied. Gaara responded, "I feel like he's already planning on that, Yugito. If he can save me from myself, never giving up once, then he will most certainly able to save Kina from herself. And trust me, I was pretty bad off. I felt the need to kill people to feel alive. And for a while, I did. He didn't give up on me, and I don't think he'll give up on Kina." Naruto clenched his fist and abruptly snapped back to reality. "I swear on my way of the ninja that I'll save Kina. Both physically and emotionally. And I never break a promise once I make it," Naruto said. Gaara and Yukie both nodded in agreement. Now Yugito started crying. "Oh, thank you," she said gratefully to Naruto. "You have no idea how much this means to me." Naruto grinned and replied, "No, I probably don't, but even I can get a vague idea." For the third time that day, Kira exclaimed, "Come on Naruto, Gaara. No one can see us. Show us your jinchuriki forms already." Each time, Naruto and Gaara had graciously declined. "You should have at least some control of them by now." Gaara appeared ashamed at the idea of voluntarily handing over control to Shukaku once more. "No way," said Gaara. Naruto had to concur with the statement. "Shukaku is a bloodthirsty killer. I won't let him out, since I can't control myself in that state." Although he had made some progress with his demon, he was still unsure of his capacity to master the Kyuubi. "I have to agree with Gaara here. I can only control mine up to a certain point, and it's really easy to lose myself. Besides, I have never depended on the Kyuubi before and I won't do it now," Naruto clarified. Many of the tailed beasts were known to Yugito. "Kira, drop it. When Shukaku comes out, he eats away at his host's personality. And after a certain point, I don't know when, the Kyuubi's power begins to shorten the lifespan of his host. These two-tailed beasts are those that can seriously harm their host." Kira was disappointed. "And besides, we came here to plan our rescue of Kina." Now they were on a field. Here, far from the city and the essential heat generator that maintained the current state of the land of spring, they had made the decision to entice Kina. All of the competitors would be jinchuriki, and the match would be 4-on-1. The others had decided to remain on standby, concentrating on the school until they were called upon, if called upon. Since he was the one who would restore Kina to normal, only Captain Yamato would be there. All Kina had to do was be restrained. And for that, 4 powerful ninja, particularly jinchuriki, would be sufficient. After an awkward silence, Naruto asked, "Captain Yamato said he would take our suggestion about where he could hide nearby, ready to do his thing. Where would be a good place?" The 4 jinchuriki looked around and saw the location at once. He said it takes a little while and he'll need some space. It was a protected rock enclave that soon gave way to grass. Yugito remarked, "That place looks good." Kira, Naruto, and Gaara all gave nods of agreement. They made their way back to the city, making a brief stop at the school to check on them. Once more, Shion appeared holding a box. She sprinted over to them and gave Gaara and Naruto the expected glance. She handed them each a headband and said simply, "Here, on it." A cloud partially obscured the sun. Naruto smiled as she watched the 2 boys put on the headbands, saying, "These are the headbands that were decided on." Wearing one of them made him feel like himself again. Gaara also put his on. Matsuri and Hinata rushed over. As Matsuri pulled Gaara away and Hinata pulled Naruto away, they both exclaimed with excitement that the school was complete and would reopen as soon as Kina was free. At this point, Naruto and Gaara were being dragged inside for a tour. When Yugito saw this, she grinned. They had been warmly received here. She was aware that at least some people needed to be aware of what they were carrying within themselves. She knew, she could tell. Yukie most likely knew too. Kina might be able to stay here, just possibly. She might be able to heal if she had two of her own kind to support and encourage her and was surrounded by people who would accept her for who she was. Although it would require some effort, it was now at least feasible. "Oi, Naruto!" exclaimed Gaara as he entered Naruto's room one morning. Naruto only responded by mumbling something about 5 more minutes after falling into a deep sleep. With a sigh, Gaara went to his friend's bed, took a pillow out from under Naruto's head, and used it to slap the blonde, who was still asleep, over his head. Naruto awoke from his sleep, prepared to swore. "Come on, get up. Kina's been sighted. She's on her way here. Everyone who will help with the rescue effort are gearing up now and preparing to lure her out." These words instantly roused Naruto to full consciousness, and he rose with a purpose. He hurriedly put on his chakra armor and got dressed. Gaara had left already. Naruto completed donning his headband in a hurry. "I'm ready to go. I'll grab something to eat on the way." As they made their way downstairs, Gaara said, "Already have that prepared." He gave Naruto a can of juice and some muffins. Naruto, unable to speak because of his currently full mouth, nodded and said, "We'll eat on the way. We're meeting in the center of town." He opened his juice, took a swig, and swallowed his food with a gulp. Already excited at the prospect of saving her, Naruto exclaimed, "Okay, by the end of the day, we'll have a new friend. I just hope the medical squads will be ready. There's bound to be some major injuries when we're done." Gaara stepped up her pace to match Naruto's, saying, "Yukie had stated that they'll be on standby. They'll be waiting for Yamato to contact them." Gaara and Naruto came over, and Kira and Yugito welcomed them. Yamato was also waiting close by. Yugito said, "Thanks again for helping Kina." Kira nodded his gratitude as well. "It's only natural. I'm sure Kina would also do the same if she knew another one of her kind were in trouble," Gaara replied. The air was filled with a loud screeching sound. Everyone's gaze was fixed on the sky. There was a huge golden hawk soaring through the air. It was directly aimed at Yamato, Kira, Yugito, Gaara, and Naruto. As he began to sprint to the location where the fight was to occur, Yamato remarked, "The plan starts now." His example was swiftly followed by everyone, who stayed away from crowded areas. Again, the enormous hawk let out a screech. The crackling of electricity was too loud for anyone to miss. As Gaara's group ran through the town, luring the out of control jinchuriki outside the city limits, she watched the other shinobi in the area flee, hurting the civilians out of danger. As she ran, Yugito was gradually changing. An equally large black, swirling sapphire blue cat appeared by the time they all arrived at the field. It was difficult for Naruto to accept that the cat's coat was composed of chakra. The enormous head of the cat turned to gaze at her allies, her eyes gleaming with gold. Yugito said, "So what do you think?" Kira gave him a headshake. He boasted, "Starting his own metamorphosis, she got nothing on me." 8 tails grew on him. However, these tails had octopus-like puckers, with yellow chakra covering his body. "I'm going full form here. Watch out, I take up some room." He transformed into a gigantic ox with the puckered tails a minute later. Naruto exclaimed in amazement, "Wow." From his hiding spot, Yamato yelled, "Would you pay attention? Kina's moving in for the attack." Kina rushed forward. She was shaped like a big golden hawk. However, through the golden chakra, a faint image of her body was visible. She appeared to be sleeping. Naruto gestured with his hands. "Kachiyose no jutsu." He slammed his hand to the ground after biting his thumb and drawing blood. Naruto stood atop Gamabunta, the Toad's current leader, a moment after a massive puff of smoke. Gamabunta swore, releasing smoke from his pipe, "You just love summoning me into dangerous situations." Naruto nodded, and after another puff of smoke, Gamabunta the Toad was gone. "Very well, I shall help you in this battle. We should do what we did last time." Gamabunta, incarnate as the 9-tailed fox, took his place. It was Yugito who initiated contact. At her friend, she hurled a ball of ghostly red energy. Kina screamed and drew closer. With one of his many tails, Kira swung at her. She swung around, opening her beak wide and releasing a line of lightning, barely avoiding it. Gamabunta leapt to try to disable Kina's wings, but everyone ducked under it. Gaara commanded, "Naruto, move," as Kina launched another line of lightning at Naruto. Gamabunta retreated. Naruto was knocked off Gamabunta's back after being struck in the chest. Red chakra encircled Naruto's body as he fell. His eyes opened. Yugito's gaze widened. Naruto's eyes were now slitted, black, outlined in red. Additionally, a tail with pointed claws and teeth was developing. Naruto landed on all four limbs after slowing his fall with his chakra. In some way, Gaara was able to trap the hawk's talon in his sand by manipulating it. As Kina struggled to break free, Gaara grunted. She let out a wailing screech. In between grunts, Gaara exclaimed, "Naruto! Do it! Now!" As Kina screeched in Naruto's ear while he struggled to hold her down, a second tail emerged. He was also experiencing severe headaches from this. "Come on, we're only trying to help you. Stop fighting us, Kina. Kira and Yugito are both worried sick about you." Kina's only reaction was to electrocute Naruto by sending lightning through her entire body. He was compelled to release his grip, and he was launched across the field with a wing flap. With his body nearly numb, Naruto grunted. He let out an incoherent cry as his muscles tensed up painfully. Returning to the air, Kina tried to dive bomb Naruto, who was still having trouble controlling his body. But Kira suddenly appeared and encircled the bird's neck with a tentacle. Kina was struck in the back by a blue ball of ephemeral fire that Yugito threw from her mouth. With another high-pitched scream, Kina turned to face the enormous sapphire cat after wriggling herself free from the tentacle's hold. Gaara dragged Naruto to his feet while Kira and Yugito restrained Kina. He said, "Naruto, are you okay?" With a nod, Naruto moved to his hands and feet. Gaara took a step back, giving Naruto some space. Naruto's voice was a little rougher than usual as he said, "I'm fine. I don't care what I have to do. Kina will be saved," Naruto exclaimed as he ran and leapt into the air, landing on Kina's back and stabilizing himself by digging his claws into her back. In an effort to get rid of the irritation on her back, Kina bucked back and forth. She felt more lightning strike her body. He strengthened the Kyuubi's chakra around his own body rather than letting go, which was her intention. He pushed her body closer to the ground, using that as insulation. They began to fall toward the earth more quickly as Kina's wing began to retract. As they struck the ground, Kina let out another screech, which was starting to irritate Naruto's sensitive hearing. After rolling over, Naruto was able to catch his breath. Kina was held in place by Gaara's compacting and hardening of the sandy soil surrounding her talons. She nevertheless began to break through the solidified sand, gradually releasing herself. More of Yugito's ephemeral balls of fire were fired, completing the task of releasing her but also sending her crashing to the ground. The uncontrollable jinchuriki quickly regained her footing. Additionally, Kina did something that made him think of Sasuke, an old teammate. A ball of lightning shot from Kina's mouth and was directed at Kira, who was now trying to hold her motionless with a few of his tentacles. Instead, Kira had to block the lightning with those tails. A loud, irate voice came from inside Naruto's head as he dropped back to his knees. "Even though we tailed beasts are gods, you still try to put me in jail?" the irate voice asked. "Give me a break. Let me use my skills freely once more?" "No," Naruto said with equal vehemence. "You having full reign of your power means that my life will be over quickly. After I die, what will you do? We'll both die if you do that. I am the most powerful of the nine-tailed creatures, the nine-tailed fox, and I am not at all like the one-tailed, weak-minded Shukaku. I'm not going to die. I'm going to get out of this terrible prison and get away from you. No, either way, whether we use too much of our abilities, or you free yourself, it will still result in my death. I won't go down without a fight, believe it," said Naruto. His body ached as the host and demon fought for dominance. Naruto cursed, "I won't let you take control." Naruto shouted, "And I never go back on my word." Things are getting worse. Gaara pondered. We will have 2 jinchuriki berserking instead of the original one if nothing changes quickly. Additionally, Gaara recalled what Yugito had said when Kira had been pleading with them to display their jinchuriki forms. These 2-tailed beasts are capable of causing serious harm to their host. Yugito said, "Kira, stop it. When Shukaku emerges, he eats away at his host's personality. And after a certain point, I don't know when, the Kyuubi's power begins to shorten the lifespan of his host. Naruto's life will be in jeopardy if he continues in this manner." Gaara understood that there would be a dead body on the ground in addition to severe injuries if this wasn't stopped, and stopped quickly. "Captain Yamato!" exclaimed Gaara. To indicate that he had heard, Yamato protruded his head. "Call for back up. We need more people here, otherwise, this will all end badly." Yamato nodded and pulled his head back as a stray lightning bolt that looked a lot like Hitaki Kakashi's Chidori almost destroyed it. Gaara turned to face his friends. Kira swore aloud at this, but he was forced to defend himself when Kiana tried to dive bomb him from above. Naruto will be losing control of himself any time now. I'll deal with him, you two stop Kiana. Yugito also gave Naruto and Gaara a worried look. Give up now. The demon fox gave the order. It won't last long. I'll even complete the destruction of Konoha and murder everyone who has wronged you or me. Despite his best efforts, Naruto was unable to prevent the formation of the third tail. His voice was now guttural, and his foxish features were even more noticeable. Naruto cursed, I won't let you. They may have hurt us both, but that does not give us the right to hurt them back. That makes us as bad as them. For you, that might be an issue, but not for me. Of the tailed beasts, I am the strongest. I was too much for even your father to handle. I was too strong for Yondaime Hokage, the yellow flash of Konoha, the legendary fourth Hokage of Konoha. He lost his life because all he could do was seal my soul into you. Naruto heard this and lost his retort. Is the demon fox correct? Did he know my dad? However, that isn't possible. A father who would condemn his own son to this fate is unthinkable. If he couldn't even scratch an enemy attacking his house, he was a true Hokage. At the very least, he had the option to murder me and spare me from this suffering, this awful life, and this awful existence. Naruto pondered furiously. Gaara cautiously walked up to his friend. With their weapons ready, every ninja who had traveled to the land of spring dashed into the clearing nearby. Kira and Yugito were able to keep Kiana under control long enough for Yamato to begin managing her demon. All of Kina's demonic chakra was soon pushed back into her body as she was surrounded by tall stone pillars. Electricity crackled in and out of Kina's tired and injured body as she lay motionless on the ground. The pillars of stone sank back into the earth from which they had emerged. Just in time to witness the fourth tail form, everyone turned to face Gaara and Naruto. Naruto's icy red eyes closed for a moment before opening up again. Everyone was aware that this Naruto was different from the one they knew. They had lost the Naruto they knew, who was fast asleep inside himself. As Naruto's skin was burned repeatedly by the Kyuubi no Kitsun's volatile chakra, which grew back almost instantly, Yamato cursed. As he moved to the front line, Yamato gave the order, we must put an end to his rampage immediately. If we don't, that healing will drain his life force and gradually kill him. With Kira and Yugito still in their jinchuriki forms, the other shinobi swiftly formed a line next to them. The first person to approach was Kira. He bravely stepped up, but the red eyes of the berserking jinchuriki in front of him showed no sign of the gentle and kind Naruto. With an authoritative voice, he declared, let's end this. And we'll end it jinchuriki to jinchuriki. The only response Naruto gave Kira was a growl, which caused the chakra around him to flare up. While Yamato issued fresh commands, two of his tails swung out at Kira. Yamato rallied those he had ordered to stay on the front line, saying, Shikamaru, Sai, remain on the front lines. Gaara's siblings move up with them. Everyone will be back. Up, also doing damage control. Everybody nodded in agreement. Don't let that chakra touch you. As Naruto turned his attention to the people assigned to damage control and backup, Yugito took the initiative. Yugito yelled, you won't hurt them, and unleashed a barrage of blue ephemeral fire. They were simply deflected to the ground, where they fizzled, by the tails of Naruto's chakra. Kira yelled, Yugito, what do we can't even touch him, as he blocked Naruto's tail from slamming into the ground with his own tails. Leave it to me. Shikamaru commanded, gesturing with his hands. His own shadow extended and made contact with Naruto's, saying, I hope this works. Naruto attempted to move but was unable. Shikamaru shuddered as he struggled for control as the furious Naruto fought even harder to escape. Yugito struck Naruto squarely in the back with another ephemeral fireball. As Naruto roared, Shikamaru also let out a cry. Yugito was obviously perplexed and asked, what, did Naruto somehow manage to hurt Shikamaru? No, screamed Shikamaru. He told them that, whatever happens to him happens to me. Now he grunted laboriously, just try to subdue long enough for Yamato to do that thing again. I can't control his body for much longer. Sai quickly sketched some large animals, which leapt off the paper, ran to Naruto's limbs, and then collapsed back into regular ink splatters. Naruto continued to move around while on his hands and knees. Naruto was immobile for a few more seconds as Temari used her enormous fan to force the ink to solidify. Shikamaru let go of Naruto's shadow after Kira wrapped his tails around him. As Naruto fell back with a loud yelp, Temari unleashed her wind attacks, calling forth a giant weasel in a black vest with a red outline. In between the weasel's front paws was a gigantic scythe. She commanded, "Go, but don't kill him." Naruto was slashed by the weasel. In order to dodge the scythe, Naruto rolled on the ground, slamming one tail into the back of the weasel. The weasel then disappeared. "What?" cried Temari. Temari almost snarled when Yamato explained, "It's that fox's chakra. It affects summoned creatures like your weasels and his clones in an unusual way." Hinata questioned from the sidelines, "Wait, is the fox laughing?" Matsuri paid close attention to the amusing noise Naruto was now making. Matsuri confirmed, "Yep. He's laughing." Matsuri also observed Hinata's extremely worried expression. According to Matsuri, Naruto will be okay. Hinata's expression remained doubtful as she said, "Gaara won't let it go much farther, neither will anyone else." "Naruto, wake up already!" Hinata screamed passionately. The fox's laughter increased. The Kyuubi boastfully said, "Little mortal, your Naruto is asleep deep within himself. Nothing can wake him now, not as long as I am in control. For so long he imprisoned me, now I will imprison him." Kira, who had moved Kina to the sidelines once she was back to normal, woke up with a groan. She now had a completely different appearance. Jet black hair and nearly as dark. Colored eyes had taken the place of the golden hair and eyes. Some of her clothing was torn and ripped. As Kina laboriously struggled to her feet, everyone on the sidelines turned to watch her. 10.10 said, "Hey, you shouldn't move yet," in an attempt to get her to lie down again. "Oh," Kina said, breathing heavily in between sentences. She stumbled and fell to one knee, gasping for air. "I can do something to knock the Kyuubi senseless. From here. While berserking. I didn't think to use it." 10.10 and Matsuri each took an arm and escorted her toward the battle. "Help me, please. I can stop this. Here and now." She stood up on her own strength and said, "Stop here." However, Hinata, Matsuri, and 10.10 were all prepared for anything. Baki ran over and demanded, "What's she doing?" Baki was stopped by Shikamaru, who had withdrawn to the sidelines himself because he had been so exhausted by using his shadow control jutsu. Baki, who had serious doubts, allowed them to continue, saying, "Let her. We'll be ready to do anything at any time." Kina said, "Everyone move away from him." Knowing what was going to happen, Yugito, who was aware of Kina's powers, ushered everyone away. Yugito yelled, "Back away everyone, now," as Kina screamed. When they heard this, everyone covered their ears with their hands. The raging demon collapsed to his knees as the ground rolled around Naruto. Naruto slowly collapsed to the ground as the demon in control of him fainted. Naruto was fully human again when his unconscious body hit the ground. Hinata was already at Naruto's side when Yugito and Kira transformed back into their typical human forms and ran to join him. Kina had been captured by 10.10 and Matsuri, and once Naruto had fully recovered, she had fainted once more. Yamato communicated with the medics who were supposed to be waiting as she was lowered to the ground. Looking down at Naruto, Hinata worriedly questioned, "Captain Yamato, will he be okay?" His chest was badly cut, and the majority of his body was badly burned. A sizable contingent of medics swarmed the field they were all in, saying, "The medics are on their way. Everyone will be fine soon enough." Naruto jerked to his feet and grunted in agony beside Hinata. As they attended to Naruto, Yamato drew Hinata aside. He reassured the agitated Hyuga, "They just need time." At the moment, Naruto, Gaara, Kankuro, and Temari's house was overcrowded. The fight had just ended, and the injured were being treated. Of them, Yugito and Kira suffered the least injuries. In contrast to Kira, who was injured when Naruto's tails repeatedly slammed down on his arms, Yugito was unharmed. Yamato was extremely tired from managing two strong tail beats in quick succession, but he was unharmed. No one else was seriously hurt, with the exception of Naruto and Kina. After examining them both, the doctor reassured them, "Those two just need time. Naruto is in the worser condition, but he'll be fine. He has quite the amazing healing rate. But I suggest giving them some peace and quiet, to let them rest in peace." Temari gave a nod. As the doctor walked away, Temari reassured him, "Thank you, doctor. We'll see to it. Okay, after they wake up, you can see them, but for now, I'd like you to give them some peace," Temari said. With the exception of the residents, Yugito, Kira, and Shion, Baki herded everyone out of the house. He would have received assistance from Yamato, but he was taking some time to rest, as was Shikamaru, who was shaken from managing the then raging Naruto, even for the brief time he had been able to do so. Shion inquired, Gaara, are you okay? Out of concern for her welfare. He replied in a melancholy tone, I'm fine. Truth be told, I was useless in that fight. Kira nodded his head. He corrected him, saying, no, you weren't. Had you not held Kina down with your sand, it would have been a lot worse than what it was. Gaara was skeptical. Gaara, Kankuro responded, didn't Naruto have chakra armor on? Why did he get so beat up? Shion replied, I can explain. It was the fox's chakra. It overpowered the chakra armor and made it stop working. Apparently, when I was talking to Yamato, he said that the fox's chakra was very volatile, and even poisonous. That's what keeping Naruto down right now, the poison in his system. It just has to come in contact with your skin apparently. With his bandaged arms raised, Kira questioned, then why am I not poisoned? Those tails repeatedly came into contact with my skin and I'm fine. We think that since you also have a tailed beast sealed in you, that protected you from the poison. Shion responded. Kira sighed at the dearth of responses, saying, of course, this is all hypothetical. We have no way of knowing. Gaara nodded, and Shion gave him a cheek kiss. I have to get back to the palace now. Let me know when they wake up, okay? Gaara said. This made Gaara flush, and Shion chuckled as she walked away. He pondered, I wonder what that was for. His siblings erupted in laughter. Without holding back, Temari said, she likes you, bro. You like her too, don't you? Gaara thought, blushing profusely. He hurried out of the room and said, I'm going to check on Naruto and Kina. As he walked away, Gaara heard everyone laughing and tried not to get angry. They have no intention of hurting me. Friends act in this way because they are friends. As resentful memories of how he had been despised in Suna came flooding back, he reassured himself. No one sees Naruto taking anything like this, even though his life was worse than mine. However, that is Naruto, not me. Gaara was the first to arrive at Kina's room. Silently, he opened the door and took a quick look inside. Kina was already awake, which surprised him. As he entered openly, Gaara remarked, Kina, you should be resting. Her face flashed vague recognition. She asked quickly, causing a coughing fit, who are you? I feel like I've met you somewhere before. And while on the subject, where am I? And what happened to the other berserking jinchuriki? She accepted a glass of water from Gaara with gratitude. Don't get so worked up. My name is Gaara, formerly of Suna, now of the land of spring. We did meet before, but I doubt you remember. I was one of those who went to stop you from berserking. And you're at my house. As for the other berserking jinchuriki, Naruto is still sleeping. His demon is the nine-tailed fox, and his losing control greatly injured him. Gaara clarified. You can stay here as long as you like. We have 4 other jinchuriki in this house, 2 of which live here full-time now. Who? She whispered. Gaara replied. You know Yugito and Kira. Naruto has the 9 tails. I have the 1 tail. Kina's stomach rumbled. Kina nodded appreciatively and said, I'll go tell everyone you're awake and bring you some food. You must be starving. Gaara made some soup after leaving the room. Gaara, why are you making soup? You never liked soup, Temari responded. He finished preparing the instant soup, poured it into a large bowl, and picked up a spoon, saying, it's not for me, it's for Kina. She's awake and very hungry. He brought the soup to Kina, who accepted it with gratitude. Now if you'll excuse me. Gaara entered the room followed by Kira and Yugito. The woman said, thank you. She gave Yugito a look. Both gave a supportive nod. Yugito? Kira? You came all the way here to save me? Do I deserve to be saved? After all, what I did to Naruto? Yugito clarified, Kina, that wasn't you. Kina looked up, perplexed. It's the nature of his demon. It gives him great power, but also comes at a great price. His injuries are the result of him losing control and the fox taking over and going too far. Kina said gravely, I see. Will he be okay? Gaara gave a nod. Gaara stood up and paused in the doorway, saying, he should be fine. He just needs time. Speaking of him, I need to go check on him. Gaara quietly closed the door after saying, Kina, I'm glad you're okay. You're among friends here, so don't worry about anything. He arrived at his friend's room and cautiously peered inside. After what had transpired today, Naruto was still sleeping the day away, not because he hadn't earned the privilege. His arms and chest were exposed as his covers were drawn up to his waist. By now the fox's power had healed all the burns. Nevertheless, Temari's wind had left his chest completely bandaged. Even Naruto would need some time to recover from those. For the time being, his healing capacity must be at its most limited. Considering his condition, it's incredible that the burns were even healed. Gaara pondered sorrowfully. Leaning against the wall on the other side of the door, he exited the room and closed it. Why must things like this happen to good people? It's not right. He was upset. Gaara heard someone coming and looked up. Kira was the one. That's the fate of all jinchuriki, my friend. Kira replied. Gaara was only able to nod. His life must have been bad to make him leave the village. You as well. Yugito was at least given a chance to be seen as herself. And I was helped greatly in my control when I was younger. You three have a hard road ahead of you. But once you finish going down the road, you'll be stronger for it. My life was good compared to his. I at least was not abused, because everyone was afraid of me. My personality was unstable due to Shukaku. When I met Naruto, my life was changed completely. Now at least, I know I have someone I can actually trust. I was the Kage's son. Inquired Kira. Yeah, since I left the village, I no longer claim my ancestry. I am no longer that person. Gaara clarified. Kira asked, what about Naruto? Despite his harsh life, he's always been so cheerful, never giving up. We don't know who his parents were. But he was never seen as Naruto, but as the demon who is sealed within him. Abused, hated, Konoha was so cruel to him. They didn't see him as human. Gaara was surprised to notice a tear streaming down his cheek at this point. The last straw was when he asked a girl out and she said she loved another, who was similar to him. He's been hurt badly. That's why he needs someone like me to not give up on him. Those were her words of explanation. It never occurred to her that Naruto was the same as well. Hinata was his only true friend there. Konoha is severely judged by the ninja world, said Kira. The largest village, the largest shinobi population, the most successful economy. They are expected to be perfect, to be strong. But because of this expectation, they think they can do no wrong. To treat Naruto like that was no problem to them. It's still cruel though. No one has the right to treat a fellow human fellow being the way they treat jinchurikis. It's not as if we begged for this to happen to us. Now Temari ascended the stairs. She looked at Naruto's door and said, the meal is ready. I would have shouted as I usually do, but they both understood. She desired for Naruto to be able to rest. Will you two come down or should I put something aside for you? We'll come. Naruto wouldn't want us to be depressed about this. How's Kina? Replied Gaara. As they went downstairs, she clarified, she's feeling well enough to join us at the table, so she'll be eating with us. They started eating as soon as they were all seated. Gaara didn't really participate in the animated conversation that was going on. Everyone was aware of his thoughts. Seeing him in this state hurts. Gaara was shocked to realize. Never in my life have I felt this way. What ought I to do? There was never a chance to respond to Gaara's question. There was the sound of footsteps descending the stairs. What? Inquired Temari. The only person upstairs was Naruto. Naruto stopped at the bottom of the stairs, panting heavily, wearing a button-up shirt, but it was hanging open and unbuttoned when she got up to see how he was doing. What's this? He asked in a humorous manner. He asked with a broad smile on his face while feigning pain. How could you guys eat without me? Temari yelled with Gaara, Naruto, you should still be in bed, together. Gaara and Temari spoke in unison as everyone looked at them and said, with how bad your injuries are, you shouldn't be moving around. Naruto defended himself by saying, but I was hungry. And I smelled Temari's cooking down here. Temari is a really good cook. At the table, nobody knew if they should laugh or force Naruto to return to his bed. Come on, you wouldn't let me starve, would you? Temari gave in and said, we'll bring you something up there. Now go back and lay down. With a defeated expression, Naruto turned to retreat up the stairs and said, fine. A hand moved to grab his chest as he froze. Kina arrived before Gaara, who had moved to assist his friend. OWW. What happened to put me in this condition? Kina said, Naruto, I'll help you back upstairs. Naruto glanced at Kina and said, it's the least I can do to thank you for saving me from myself. She blushed when Naruto remarked, you sure look different when you're not in your jinchuriki form. I at least hope we could be friends. I'm sorry though for what we had to do to calm you down. Kina gave a shrug. It was necessary, and I'm sorry for using my screech on you. It can knock living things unconscious, but leaves a nasty headache afterwards. Naruto sighed. As he and Kina ascended the stairs, he remarked, so that's where this huge headache came from. As they slowly ascended the stairs, Naruto rested on Kina and said, and, as you said, it was necessary. His injuries, which he wasn't used to hurting him, were hurting him a lot because his healing was taking a little longer than usual. He informed Kiana, "My room is right here." Kiana escorted him to his bed after opening the door for him. In order to sit up in bed, Kiana moved his pillows around. She said, "Here, Naruto, already worn out, lay back down. This is not necessary for you to do. I think we're on an equal footing now," Naruto remarked. "No, we're not. Yes, we both prevented one another from losing our minds, but you kept me from feeling alone. I have no desire to go back to the village. I would like to remain here with you. Somehow, you're different," Kiana remarked sorrowfully. Naruto said, "Maybe Yukie will let you stay. Your village won't miss you if your life was anything like ours. She also said that Gaara and I could remain. Perhaps she'll let you stay too. Here, you're welcome. I am aware of that." "I'd believe that, coming from you," Kiana said as she sat down on the bed and began to cry. "Perhaps I will speak with Queen Yukie shortly. I might be permitted to stay," Naruto thought as she wiped away her tears. "All you need is a new beginning," Naruto remarked. "Yukie is good at giving those." Temari and Gaara entered the room with some food after someone knocked. "We also brought food for Kiana." Gaara told Naruto, "We'll let you two have some private time now." It sounded like she wanted to talk to you alone. As Gaara and Temari departed, Naruto said, "Thanks. Now that I think about it, what is your age?" "Gaara and I are both 13, Naruto inquired. "Why?" She said shyly, "I'm 10. Naruto replied, "I'm curious." He then picked up his bowl after feeling something beneath the napkin it was resting on and discovering a piece of paper. More precisely, a letter, from Yukie. "Naruto, here's Yukie. I think Kiana is the same as you and Gaara. Tell her she's welcome and invite her to stay. Perhaps you could work the changes you made in Gaara, Shion, and me on her." Yukie Kiana read the letter after Naruto, who had laughed, showed it to her and said, "Read it." "Maybe I could remain here." "Really? What did she think about the whole you changing everyone thing?" she asked excitedly, life bursting into her dejected expression. Naruto nodded, and Kiana sobbed once more, this time with joy. "I appear to possess a unique talent. Almost anyone can become a friend of mine." Gaara was a complete mess. He detested the world and its inhabitants, Naruto replied. Kiana remarked, "Ah, the typical attitude of our kind, except for you. I don't mean to offend, but you're the odd one out." "None taken," said Naruto with a smile. Shion was the self-centered, heartless priestess of the demon country, as I mentioned. "And Yukie, I met her on a mission," Naruto said, laughing. "Now look at her, the bright little sunshine that she is. My old sensei had to sneak her out of the country because of the uprisings in this country. She was jaded and furious when we first met, and she had no desire to have anything to do with the nation whose throne she was the legitimate heir to. She began to eat, saying, 'She doesn't sound like that kind of person now.'" Kiana reminded him, "Your food will get cold if you don't eat it soon." Naruto ate himself, and they ate in silence for a few minutes, their minds and hearts as well as their hungry stomachs feeling somewhat satisfied. A few days later, Naruto's bandages were removed, and as usual, he had no scars, even though Temari had seriously injured his chest. Kiana was astounded to discover that he was capable of healing himself. One evening, Shikamaru said bluntly, "Hey, Naruto. You do realize that tomorrow is the first day of school, don't you?" Shikamaru inquired. "Are you referring to the ninja school or my education?" did he ask. "The ninja school," Shikamaru sighed. "You will be one of the teachers." Yugito and Kira had also left the day before, and Kiana had required some extra assistance because her confidence was currently completely shattered. Naruto had completely lost his memory of this, which he attributed to recuperating from a rather intense battle. Naruto had seen it, and Kiana, who was staying with them now, with Shion, who seemed to enjoy interior decorating, helping her decorate her room, walked into the living room where everyone was, wearing a short white dress with spaghetti straps over some long shorts, and had thrown off her old headband in favor of one from the land of spring. With lacy black curtains on her window, a large dresser, a desk, a comfortable chair for it, and a circular chair close by, Kiana's room was filled with gorgeous colors, something she had reportedly wanted to do in her old village but had not been able to do. The walls were painted with a stunning sunset reflecting off a lake. "Are you even listening to me, Naruto?" Naruto sighed and stood up as Shikamaru demanded, jolting the blonde back to reality. "You were heard. Geez, do you even know how to relax?" he asked. "I know how to relax. I just can't right now," he said. "The entire school process is really tedious. Similar to setting up the chunin exams." As Naruto entered the academy and looked for his classroom, He immediately noticed that it was much busier than before. Naruto, this should be fun, right? Kiana asked. Since Kiana was actually very intelligent and skilled at chakra control, it was decided that she and Naruto would each teach one class. Kiana had chosen to be a ninja who didn't take away missions, at least for the time being. However, she had stated that she wanted to work at the school, and Gaara and Naruto had agreed because Naruto would really need assistance with his teaching. Yes, it ought to be. Naturally, it will take several years before it really takes off, however, it will be worthwhile. In relation to the pupils, did you remember to obtain the lesson plan for today? Naruto inquired. Kiana replied, I put all the lesson plans Shikamaru provided in the classroom already. They arrived at their classroom and opened the door to find a small group of eager children waiting for them. They needed to keep their numbers small until they had enough team leaders to manage the teams once they advanced to Genin. Tamari, Kankuro, Gaara, Naruto, and Kiana were all now permanent residents of the Land of Snow, and Matsuri was seriously contemplating it. Hinata did not want to, but that was not her decision. She had written to her father requesting permission, but had not received a response. Now that Naruto and Kiana were back in the real world, the children who had been chatting excitedly to kill time fell silent and nearly held their breath as they waited for class to begin. My name is Naruto Uzumaki, said Kiana. Kiana is my companion here. While observing his students in the hopes of being able to mentor them, Naruto remarked, we'll be your senseis during your time in the academy. Before you can learn jutsu, you must know about things like chakra, the history of ninja, the type of jutsu that are known about today, and of course, what being a shinobi really means. Kiana warned, we'll be taking this slowly. There were only 9 children in the room. All of them nodded gravely. Who can tell me about the 5 great shinobi nations? Naruto explained, we'll start with some questions for you, to test what you already know. Before you respond, tell us your name as well. Yes, in the corner, said a young girl with blonde hair and blue eyes, raising her hand. The 5 great shinobi nations are the 5 main ninja nations, each named after one of the 5 elements, the girl said shyly. My name is Shana. Alternatively, fire, wind, lightning, earth, and water. Their leaders have the word Kage at the end, which means shadow. Kaden, Futen, Raiden, Doden, and Suiden. Thus, their names are Tsuchikage, Reikage, Mizukage, Kazekage, and Hokage. Naruto congratulated Shana, saying, very good, Shana. Ninjas need one important thing. Details. It is frequently difficult to accomplish the mission without it. Who can explain chakra to me? Shana and a boy with dark hair and eyes both raised their hands, and Naruto called out to the boy, saying, my name is Kai. In terms of chakra, there are various varieties. Shana just listed the 5 primary types. However, there is a healing chakra as well. Only use the 5 elements themselves for classification purposes, as each ninja is appropriate for a distinct element. To determine your chakra type, you must use a chakra paper that you can obtain from chakra trees. Your jutsu is also powered by chakra, though the amount needed varies depending on the technique. Chakra depletion prevents you from performing jutsu and frequently leaves you feeling worn out. Is anyone familiar with the various forms of jutsu? Kiana asked. Shana raised her hand again. Kiana called on her since no one else raised theirs. Shana. Genjutsu is an illusionary art that calls for hand seals. I'm fairly certain it employs some sort of hypnotism. Kiana gave a supportive nod. Taijutsu doesn't use chakra. Instead, it emphasizes speed and hand-to. Hand fighting. It uses speed to enable more hits, but not as much in each one, so it's not necessarily powerful when it comes to a single hit. Just like elemental manipulation, ninjutsu requires specific skills. Shana explained to them all. Dujutsu is one thing Shana left out of our knowledge because it only applies to specific clans. These are eye techniques that don't need hand seals. Dujutsu, also called the family ability, is only used by members of a clan with a bloodline limit. Naruto continued Shana's response by telling the children, only those within the clans know how to use them. Naruto called on a child who had raised their hand. So, it's just a genetically determined ability that members of a particular family can use? Did he ask? Yes. Kiana replied, the Byakugan, which is exclusive to the Hyuga clan, and the Sharingan, which is only available to the Uchiha clan, are 2 excellent examples. Konoha is home to both of these clans. Before the lunch break, I would like to hear the remaining names. Alright, after lunch, we'll talk a little longer and see how you guys are with your aim. Naruto promised, receiving a number of enthusiastic responses. In addition to Kai and Shana, there were Hiro, Tamaki, Mui, Mitsu, Suzuki, Faye, and Fury. All of these individuals were male, with the exception of Faye and Fury. The ninja program had been in place for 3 years. Since that time, the first generation shinobi students were nearly prepared to take the test to determine their genin status. As Hinata moved through the corridors, Naruto noticed her. As he sat down in his office, he couldn't help but think about what had happened to her nearly 3 years ago. Rewind. Hinata dashed into the home of Naruto and Gaara. She was crying, and Temari, who was cooking, noticed. Hinata's voice was shaking as she asked, "Where? Is Naruto?" Temari replied, "He's upstairs in his room." "But wait," called Temari. Hinata was either indifferent or didn't hear. The bad news continued to race through her head as she bounded up the stairs. Still crumpled in her fist was the letter she had just received from her father. When she arrived at Naruto's room, she cried, "Naruto, can I come in?" She collapsed as her knees went weak. The door, which had not been closed properly, opened completely. Somehow, she dropped to her knees and raised her head. With her fist loosened and her father's letter on the floor, she demanded, "What's going on?" Naruto had Kina seated on his lap. She had wrapped her arms around his neck. They stopped kissing as she watched. She stood up and shook her head, saying, "Hinata." He shouted, "Let me explain." "No, don't leave," as she fled the room, her tears growing even more intense. Naruto picked up the paper his girlfriend had dropped and carefully lifted her off his lap. With a dejected expression on his face, Kina said, "Naruto, what is it?" Crumpling the letter even more in his fist, Naruto angrily declared, "Hinata's been banished from her clan." Naruto felt a tear escape his eye as he said, "Her father has made her little sister heir in her place and has even thrown away all of her things. Her name can even be mentioned." He said as he left the room, "He was always like this to her. And now this. Sorry, but I gotta go after her." Final flashback. Their relationship remained somewhat strained to this day. She had never caught Naruto's attention more than a friend. And even though they were mostly friends again, as long as he was seeing Kina, things would never be the same. But he was reluctant to end his relationship with Kina. Kina was able to relate to him as a fellow jinchuriki and as a person. Gaara yelled, "Naruto," right into his ear. Naruto glared at the redhead and jumped. "What?" he inquired sourly. "It's time for school. Remember, today is the test to see who becomes genin," reminded Gaara. Gaara had just converted to Junin. And Naruto was rapidly approaching, nearly there, actually. They were joined by Temari and Kankuro. Despite Kina's advanced age, Hinata was still a chunin, just like Kina. It had only been 2 months since her 13th birthday. A combined group of senior ninja from Suna, Konoha, and Kina's former village had determined the rankings. Matsuri had become a Junin as well. Naruto heaved himself off the chair in his office and said, "Right, let's go." Gaara inquired, "What were you thinking about? You had a serious look on your face." In response, Naruto said, "It was nothing. Just reflecting on the changes we've made." Naruto had always lagged behind his former classmates in terms of skill level, but with a lot of assistance from others, he had finally caught up. From there to here, however, it had been a long journey. He not only appeared much older, but he had also somewhat grown up. As they arrived at the classroom, where every student was assembled, Gaara declared, "We're here." 6 children had been in another room, and eventually the classes blended together to form a single class. "I wonder how we'll do this. We'll need Junins to be team leaders, and someone to teach." Naruto said, "Yukie and I were talking about that." Gaara and Naruto came in and said, "We went over the plans again, and Konoha will send a teacher here. It'll probably be Iruka Sensei. We'll have teams." They were greeted by 15 eager children, all of whom asked questions. They were all curious about what would happen today. With varying wording, they all exclaimed, "Naruto! Sensei, Gaara! Sensei, how are we going to do this today?" They soothed them. Everyone fell silent with guilty expressions on their faces as Gaara corrected them, saying, "First off, a good ninja always shows discipline. But, your enthusiasm is good. You just need to learn to show it in different ways, healthy ways." This time, Naruto took over the speech. Naruto held up 2 fingers and stated, "We'll be doing the exam in 2 rooms. 3 Junin will be in each room, to judge you. You'll be required to show the ability to perform 3 of the techniques you've learned here. You'll be told what ones as soon as you enter. After you leave, you can't tell anyone else what they were. To be caught doing so will automatically bump you back to academy." As she entered a different room from Naruto, Gaara said, "Okay, stay here and we'll call you by name into the rooms." Matsuri and Temari were waiting for Naruto when he entered his own room. Gaara was in her room with Kankuro. In order to maintain a fair number of chunin for the exam judging, Baki had traveled from Suna. The children were called in one by one. The fact that none of them had failed astounded Baki. Which is a testament to you guys' teaching ability. I do have one suggestion for Naruto though. What is that? Inquired Naruto. Fury and Mitsu are the ones who have the most trouble. Take one of them, giving the other to one of the more experienced chunin. Naruto, you could understand how they feel, said Baki. Gaara proposed, Temari could take Mitsu. Fury has taken a liking to Naruto and will be able to gain the most for him. Naruto said, sounds like a plan. But you had better tell Matsuri that, as she's the one who is arranging the teams. Gaara chuckled. Shion and Kina greeted him as they left, saying, that's true, so let's go do that. Knowing that her boyfriend was hungry now, Kina asked, Naruto, are you hungry? They had already dated for 2 years. He stated unequivocally, you know me, Kina. Of course I'm hungry. I want some ramen. There was a dead silence in the classroom. The genin were all seated, their eyes barely containing their excitement. They were attempting to maintain their composure, as advised by their sensei. However, that was far more difficult to accomplish than simply stating that they would. Eager to learn who would be paired with whom, they had all arrived for this class meeting 30 minutes early. However, their senseis had not yet arrived. When Gaara and Naruto eventually entered, a tanned man with a scar across his nose behind them said, now this is just depressing. Everyone, this is Iruka, the man who taught Naruto when he was in academy. He'll be taking over as the teacher here. As his new positions dictates, he'll be announcing the teams. Iruka received a few papers from Naruto. Iruka said, all right, let's get started. He took a seat at the desk. Happy to have been promoted to chunin in time to have a team, Naruto adjusted his shirt. Naruto was leaning against the wall, and Gaara took a seat beside him. Gaara's chakra armor was still on. When he first overpowered his while attempting to restore Kina to normal years ago, Naruto had given up on that. The 3 children cheered. Team 1, which will be led by Temari, will be Mitsu, Fei, and Mui. Temari made the decision to enter at this time, and they all formed a line next to her as she beckoned them to follow. Matsuri entered the room and they left. Kankuro made the decision to join them at this point. Matsuri's team, Team 2, will be Shana, Kai, and Hiro. Gaara's Team 3 will consist of Shina, Tia, and Renee. After joining their senseis, the new team members departed the room. Fiori, in particular, was pleased with her designated sensei. Kankuro will teach Team 4, which is Lina, Kanta, and Mori. Which leaves Naruto with Fiori, Suzuki, and Takaru as Team 5. Takaru said, I'm the only guy on the team? Naruto grinned warmly as he nodded. Naruto led his new team to an open area and instructed them to sit down. We'll do something my Junin master did with me while I was just a new genin. We need to get to know each other. So when I call on you, tell me your name, your dream, and your favorite thing. He clarified. Takaru, you're first. I'm Takaru Shindo, he said, nervously pulling his headband over his dark red hair, his green eyes both curious and afraid of the path he had just vowed to follow. My dream is to become strong enough to protect my home, and my favorite thing would have to be painting in my free time. While still enrolled in the academy, students had the option to leave and pursue other interests instead of becoming ninjas. Fury? Naruto inquired, fully aware of the young girl's admiration for him. I'm Fury Kaneda. My dream is to make everyone see what I can really do, as I'm an orphan and have no family, and to have the ability to protect those I love. The girl's blue eyes lit up with fear. Naruto could clearly see himself in her, even down to the blue eyes and short blonde hair. Naruto was right when he said, I also like ramen, and would eat it for every meal if I could. When he was younger, he had been exactly like her. Suzuki brushed her long black hair back behind her head in a simple ponytail and realized, I guess I'm up. I'm Suzuki Morino. My goal is to make people realize just because I'm a girl doesn't mean I'm worthless. I often get criticism because I don't act like a girl. And my free time is to train, I guess. My family are all soldiers. The Morinos were a family Naruto knew very well. Here in the land of spring, they were among the oldest families. The oldest and most traditional of the family. They even teach the girls to be leaders and soldiers at a young age. This family produced some of the best soldiers. Naruto inquired, and what does your family think of this? Suzuki said, well, they didn't exactly agree with it, but I was never one for soldiering. They knew that while I had potential for being a soldier, my personality itself was in the way. They think this might help me become a warrior in my own right, she grumbled. Eager to begin, Naruto said, well, how about I see how much improvement you all made? The three genin were eager to begin as well. I haven't seen you all training lately. Be glad I'm not doing what my sensei made us do, said Naruto. Fury inquired, what did your sensei make you and your team do? He wanted us to catch him and steal 3 bells off of him. He stated, but he is a chunin especially trained at hunting and avoiding us. We stood no chance. I ended up tied to a pole, as I had given the worst performance. Also, we weren't allowed to eat at all beforehand. My teammates got to eat. We only had 2 meals. Naruto laughed. But that had all been a test. He had forbidden them from giving me any food and wanted to see if we were really to break the rules for the good of a comrade. With excitement, Suzuki inquired, did you pass? Naruto led the group to a freshly constructed training ground and responded, yes, we did. Had someone else been tied to the pole, I would have done the same. Naruto. Sensei, we told you about us. Can you answer for us the same questions you asked us? Replied Takaru. He replied, sure. Without going into further detail about his troubled past, he stated, my name is Naruto. My dream used to be to want to be acknowledged for my abilities and to become the Hokage of my village to show them that I wasn't worthless. I too was an orphan. He looked around and saw that they had reached their destination. As for what I like, I used to be a ramen fanatic and resisted all efforts to get me to eat something different, even though it's important for a ninja to maintain his or her nutrition. But now I like living here happy, accepted for who I am and teaching. So, let's see where we all stand now. The evening in the Sand siblings' home was calm. Naruto and Gaara had just returned from school. After training them until they graduated from academy, today was also their first day with their team. Since it would be difficult to find free time now that they had teams, it goes without saying that Gaara and Naruto were both unwinding and enjoying their time off. Everyone had just been informed that dinner was finished by Temari, who had been assisting Kankuro in the kitchen. When Shion entered the dining room, he led the final 2 individuals he wished to see from Konoha behind her. They were both grinning and feeling good about themselves. Sakura Haruno waved cheerfully and said, hi, Naruto. The expression on Naruto's face grew icy. Sasuke Uchiha gave the order, relax, Dobi. We're here on a mission. Tsunade. Sama was against sending us, but it was really important and no one else could be sent, as a small group of ninja are always kept at home. Sakura bowed and said, Naruto, before anything else, I want to say sorry. Back then, I didn't realize what I was saying. I hope you can forgive me. I really am sorry. Naruto was unsure of how to respond to this. On the one hand, he was always forgiving of those who begged for it. Sakura, however, had been severely wounded. She had repeatedly ignored him since they first started academy together, focusing solely on the man behind her. He must have been confused. As a consoling gesture and a way to restrain Naruto in case he became enraged, Gaara put a hand on his shoulder. Sasuke snapped Naruto out of his reverie with the words, she's apologizing, Dobi. Naruto gave Sasuke a scowl. Say something already. Naruto shouted, don't call me that, and drew away from Gaara. Naruto stormed up the stairs, where they could clearly hear his door slam, and declared, I'll eat later. If you need me, I'll be in my room. Temari dropped the ladle she had just been using for cooking to the floor, her apron now smeared with spaghetti sauce, and Kankuro and Temari both looked shocked at Naruto's unexpected outburst. Sakura exclaimed, I knew it, as tears began to stream down her cheeks. Sasuke placed a hand on her shoulder and said, I drove him away from Konoha. Sasuke told her, even if that's true, Naruto still could have handled it better. Temari questioned sharply, and why would he have the ability to do that? He knows how to handle the problems here well, but he can't stand Konoha, even now. And you too, 2 of the people that he can't stand the most, suddenly waltz in here and expect it to go well. He has very bad memories of that place and you two had to come here and bring them up in his mind. She removed her apron. She said as she left the house, I'm going find Kiana. If anyone can make my brother smile again, it's her. Brother? Came Sasuke's question. Sasuke said, the Dobi is an orphan. Holding Gaara back, Kankuro explained, we adopted him into our family. Bending down to retrieve Temari's apron and cooking ladle, Kankuro said, and he specifically told you not to call him that. So please don't. Gaara, can you clean up the spaghetti sauce on the floor? Gaara grabbed a towel, soaked some of it, and got down on his knees to mop up the sauce that had spilled on the tile floor. Sure. As he stood up, he glared at Sakura and Sasuke. I'll go throw a load of laundry in. I'll put in this towel and Temari's apron. he replied. Gaara accepted the discolored apron from Konkuro. Who's Kina? Sakura boldly inquired. From behind came a harsh voice that said, that would be me. Kina entered after Temari. I'm Kina, Naruto's girlfriend. I was already on my way here to see him when Temari found me and explained the situation. I don't care who you are, or how much stronger you are than me. If I see you near him without his say.so, then you had better watch out. The same goes for the Uchiha, she said as she climbed the stairs. When she arrived at his room, she knocked. When there was no response, she yelled, it's me, Kina. I'm alone. A low voice said, come in. Kina entered. She approached Naruto, who was lying on his bed, and said, hey, Naruto. Do you want to talk about? As Sasuke approached the stairs, he was confronted by a wall of sand that had taken only a second to completely form. What about our mission? We were ordered to deliver a special message to Gaara and Naruto. We were told not to waste any time. Gaara entered carrying an empty laundry basket and declared, you can deal with me. Maybe when Naruto calms down, he might be able to talk to you calmly. But until then, you and Sakura are going nowhere near him. Disdainfully, Sasuke remarked, I can deal without seeing him. He produced a scroll, which he gave to the redhead. It is mainly Sakura who needs to talk to him. He hurt her by leaving. Like one time of hurt compares to the horrible life he led thanks to Konoha. Temari replied. Sasuke, you were one of the biggest ones to hurt him. He went through hell to try and catch up with you, dealing with the villagers at the same time. Sakura, you seem to be suffering enough. I can tell you're sorry. But you have to convince him of that, not us. Gaara cautiously lowered the sand barrier. Sakura swore, and I will. I'll prove to him that I'm sorry. Kina stroked Naruto's hair and said softly, it's okay. Naruto attempted to control his tears in front of Kina by saying, I know they bring up bad memories. It's only natural that you would react this way. This proves that you're still human. Don't be ashamed. He buried his sorrow, grief, and suffering deep within himself and had never before sobbed in public. Crossly, Naruto remarked, I should be stronger than this. I'm a ninja, not only a ninja, but a chunin at that. Kina told Naruto, you know, crying isn't a sign of weakness. She somehow knew this sort of thing about him. This caused Naruto to gasp. She pulled him into an upright position and said, in fact, the best guys to date are always the ones who can show their tears, especially to their special someone. Naruto felt his tears begin to fall. It's okay. You can tell me anything and not be afraid of me telling anyone. With his hands balled into a fist, he admitted, I just haven't had to deal with it for such a long time. My life finally takes a turn for the better and it seems they won't rest while I'm actually happy. Kina pulled his head onto her shoulder and asked, why can't they just leave me be? Surely there was someone else to do this mission. Why my old team? As he vented his frustration and rage, Kina reassured him, no one can deny that you've changed. But maybe you should try to forgive them. Temari did tell me that this Sakura girl apologized. And though that can't erase the pain, it's a good start. And you know by now that you don't have to be comparable to the Uchiha that Konoha boasts so proudly of. Naruto remained silent. He was still trying to look like a man. Naruto, you don't have to be a man with me. Kina replied. When you were a child, you had no chance to have a normal childhood. There was no one that you could cry to. Now you do. Don't be afraid to cry, don't hold your emotions in. Everything will be fine. Naruto felt a knot in his stomach. Now that I've effectively shown you that I can cry, it's left me hungry. But I'm not ready to face my old team just yet, he exhaled. Kina left the room after saying, I'll go see if they are still down there. If they are, I'll grab you some food. When she came downstairs, the Uchiha and the pink-haired Haruno girl had left. Temari inquired, how's Naruto, as Kina appeared. Kina said, fine. Kina shouted up the stairs, but he said he wasn't ready to face them yet but was also hungry. Naruto? They're not here. Naruto entered the lower level. Temari said, let's go back to dinner. Everyone took a seat and helped themselves to the spaghetti pot in the center of the table. Gaara gave Naruto the scroll containing Konoha's message. There were only 2 words in Naruto's response. Gaara had read the message before. Oh crap. The scroll dropped to the ground from Naruto's grasp. At this, everyone except Gaara froze. Naruto, will you be okay? If you need some time alone, we'd understand. This is really your day for emotional bombshells. Naruto became depressed once more. I need to think by myself. Gaara, if they want to know, you can tell them. Naruto replied. He went to his room by climbing the stairs. As soon as Naruto was out of earshot, Kina demanded, Gaara, What message did that scroll contain? Tamari read the scroll after picking it up. She nearly dropped the scroll as well. Kankuro took it and gave a quiet whistle. He gave the scroll to Kiana, who read it rapidly, and said, "No wonder Naruto is the way he is right now." She whispered, "Oh my." There were 2 messages on the scroll. The first was a caution. After 3 of the jinchuriki arrived, an organization they called Akatsuki arrived. Kiana remarked, "Oh crap. We need to prepare for this." Kankuro and Tamari both nodded. However, Naruto had just been hit with an emotional bombshell that was not that. No, Naruto was the main focus of the second message. His mother was still living. She had never returned from her mission. Neither had her death been verified. As it happened, she had been kidnapped and imprisoned for more than a decade. And a group of chunin had accidentally discovered her where she had been imprisoned 2 weeks prior, saving her. The now rescued woman had slept for a week straight, and when she woke up, her first request was to see her son, whom she hadn't seen since he was just a few months old. Everything had been explained by Tsunade. Tsunade had informed her of his experiences, location, and motivation. Kushina also wanted to see her son at least once and give a proper explanation, even though she was upset that her husband's final request had been disregarded. Tsunade had thus promised to send him a message informing him of her long-awaited return. Naruto returned downstairs a short while later, his expression resolute. He informed them, "In 2 days, I'm leaving for Konoha. Gaara, I don't know how long I'll be gone. Could you watch over my team for me? I'll explain to them why I'm leaving. But I need someone to make sure that they train, not that I'm too concerned about this." Gaara reminded him, "Sure thing, but you need to tell Yukie that you're leaving." "I know. I'm going to the palace right now to tell her. Tomorrow I'm packing and buying my boat ticket. And the day after that I'm leaving." He proceeded to put on his shoes. Tamari handed over the scroll and said, "Can I have it for a little while? I need to show Yukie." Before he left, he gave Kiana a kiss. He said, "I'll be back soon." Naruto had no trouble reaching Yukie. She had just concluded an official meeting. Yukie, glad that the meeting was over, said, "Naruto, how can I help you this evening?" He gave her the scroll and said, "2 shinobi from Konoha came this evening. They delivered a message." After reading it all, she said calmly, "I see. We'll coordinate with the ninja populace on the defense tomorrow. But as for your mother, I hereby grant you as much time you may need. Don't worry about things here. We'll be fine without you here for a little while, though we will miss you. When are you planning on leaving?" To which Naruto replied, "In 2 days. I was thinking on the way here. Is it possible to bring my mother here if she wants to come?" asked Naruto. Yukie grinned. Naruto must have looked extremely relieved at this, saying, "Of course. I was just thinking that exact same thought. Tell her that she'll be welcome here should she want to come." She approached him and gave him an embrace, saying, "In fact, I'll even see you off when you leave." Yukie said, "I hope this turns out well for you. I really do." Naruto hugged him back. He trailed off, saying, "Thank you. I really hope this all works out too. If she really is my mom, then." He was already curious about her appearance and personality. He had a lot of questions that had plagued him all his life. There was a chance that he might finally receive some answers. Well, let's just say it'll be a change. Yukie agreed, astonished at how vibrant he appeared at the moment. To say the least, "I'm glad to see you so excited. I wonder what she's like. She at least has to come visit sometimes. I insist on that much." Tsunade paid Kushina her nightly visit. Physically, Kushina was still in ruins. She had been discovered injured, half-starved, and imprisoned in an underground prison with little access to sunlight. Even though she was physically improving and in generally good health considering what she had been through, her thoughts were focused on just one thing. From her hospital bed, Kushina would utter a single name each time the sun set. Naruto. This name would evoke thoughts of his current appearance, his reaction to her unexpected appearance, and whether or not he was happy. She also considered the fact that she had been separated from her only child for another day since she had been discovered. With a scroll in her hand, Tsunade declared, "I just received a message from the land of spring." Kushina raised his head. Naruto now resides there, Tsunade had informed her. Kushina received the scroll from Tsunade. "It was addressed personally to you, so it's still unopened, but I know who it's from." They took the scroll from Kushina. "My son?" she said tremblingly. Tsunade gave a nod. Kushina opened it, almost scared to read it. The handwriting was unsteady. "I haven't decided what to call you yet. My hands are shaking a lot right now, as you can probably tell. Regarding you, I doubt Tsunade. Chan would tell me lies. That you are the woman who gave birth to me is what I will therefore believe. As far as I can recall, we have never met. I'm still traveling there, though, in spite of that. When you receive this, I'm not sure where I'll be. However, I hope you receive this quickly. I'm eager to meet you. I have a lot of questions. Your appearance, personality, and the events that led to our separation. For a very long time, I believed you had abandoned me. However, I now realize that isn't the case. Since you probably want to ask me a lot of questions, I have a lot to ask you. We need to catch up on a lot of things. To be honest, I was relieved to learn that you were not only still alive but also that you inquired about me first. You should be aware of a few things, though. 1. I'm content. In my nation, I am a chunin. In addition, I was adopted as one of my siblings. Even my girlfriend is adorable. 2. If you'd like, I'd like to let you be my mother. Our time apart won't be a hindrance to me. And 3. I have been asked to invite you to visit by Yukie. Since she is actually my sister, she wants to know you. If you needed some time to unwind, I wouldn't be shocked. There, you'll always be welcome. I must leave now. I just stepped off the boat that brought me from the land of spring to this place. I'm going to Konoha by double time. It means I'll arrive sooner. Don't get worked up, though. I want to welcome a mother who isn't stressed out and looks her best. The trip there will take no more than 4 days. I am really excited for this meeting. However, I'm hoping to significantly reduce that time. Naruto Uzumaki signed Kushina started giggling. Wiping away her tears, Kushina remarked, "My son certainly is something else. He's happy. Even has a cute girlfriend, as he puts it. And a family, a group of siblings that have taken him in as one their own. Speaking of which, we have an approximate time of arrival for him." Tsunade replied. She raised 2 fingers. In 2 days. He'll be here in 2 days. Despite 2 days of arduous travel, Naruto was hardly even exhausted by the time he arrived, pausing only once or twice a day for food and a little sleep. When he finally saw Konoha, it was in the afternoon. Even faster, he halted before he could see the gate and approached calmly. When the guards at the gate saw him, they looked twice. It was difficult to forget him. He was unmistakably Naruto Uzumaki, even though they hadn't seen him in a while. He said pleasantly, "Hi." He held out a pass and said, "My name is Naruto Uzumaki. I'm expected. This is my proof." One of the women said, "No need for that." When Naruto recognized that voice, he turned around with joy. "It's good to see you again. We thought you would never come back for a visit." "Hey, Shizune!" shouted Naruto. Shizune grinned and gathered the much older Naruto in an embrace, asking, "How is everything around here? It looks peaceful. Tsunade has made room for you at her place. But she figured that you would probably want to see your mother first." "I do. I can eat and stuff later. The wait has been driving me insane. Does she really look forward to meeting me?" He hesitated. Shizune grinned. "Oh yeah. She's been so alive the past few days. At first she was really quiet. We could tell she was worried about how you would react. But ever since she got your letter, she's in very good spirits." Shizune replied. When they arrived at the hospital, Shizune guided them to a 3rd floor room. "Tsunade Sama has been keeping her company when she can. But your mom is also nervous. She was actually worried that you would overexert yourself on your way here when she read that you would be double timing it." He chuckled. Tsunade said something that he heard. Just outside the door were they. Shizune knocked and went inside, saying, "I think I just heard Naruto's laugh." She was waiting for Naruto at the gate. As Tsunade said, "Come in, Naruto. Don't be shy." After entering the room, Naruto placed his bag on the floor close to the bed's foot. Tsunade approached him. Playfully, she reprimanded, "Next time don't take so long to visit." Now Tsunade grinned. Tsunade and Shizune exited the room after saying, "We'll leave you two alone now. Come on, Shizune." Naruto sat nervously beside the bed. Both stared at one another for a minute. The woman then grinned. She remarked, "You look just like your father. I hope you can forgive me for not being there. I would have had it any other way than that." Naruto whispered, "That was never an issue. I believe you when you say you couldn't help it. This is a whole new thing for me. I thought, until recently, that all my birth family was either dead or didn't care about me. I'm sorry if I'm acting a little awkward now." Kushina dismissed the matter. Kushina's blue eyes widened in alarm as she said, "But I think I must have taken after my father, whoever he was. The only thing looks wise that I have in common with you is my eye color." She combed her red hair, which reached her shoulders, away from her face. "Naruto, you should know something. I'm not staying in Konoha. Tsunade has explained everything to me. And I won't stay in a place where my own son, who was supposed to be treated like a hero, was mistreated so badly. Do you think I could move in with you? Naruto's eyes widened in surprise. Of course, if you're against this. Naruto abruptly said, no, his voice trembled and he began to cry, marking the realization of a lifelong dream. I truly wanted you to come live with me, as I will not be living here anymore. But I have no right to force you to do that. And now, you're here. There's no way I'm wasting this chance. Of course you can live with me. He dabbed at his tears. Look at me. A happy reunion and I'm crying. He stopped. In fact, only the third person I have cried in front of. Kushina gestured for Naruto to take a seat beside her as she scooted over in the big hospital bed. Naruto was very happy. Naruto was hugged by Kushina. She sniffled and remarked, for the past 10 years, only one thing has really kept me going. She kissed him on the forehead and said, and that was seeing you again. I was so afraid you'd reject me. After all, it's been so long. It would only be fair. Naruto discovered that he was crying uncontrollably at this point. But from now on, I'm going to be there for you. No excuses this time. I know, was all he said. I've been dreaming of moments like this for so long. So long. I never thought that dream would come true though. He was about to weep. He gave his mother a tight hug in return, saying, I know what I'm doing right now may seem childish, but I don't really care. Kushina gave him a soothing back rub. I really don't care. No one else can see us. I'm just happy that someone like you exists for me. Kushina said, how about I tell you my story first? Naruto drew back and nodded enthusiastically, saying, I'll answer any question you may have. Then you can tell me your story and maybe you can answer a few of my questions. He handed her a tissue from the box next to the bed and used it to wipe away his tears. Gladly. Kushina put her hand over his and grinned, saying, if I can answer it, I will. Kushina stated, then I'll start. They talked the entire night. Even though visiting hours had long since ended, no one had the heart to call off such a reunion. At approximately 3 in the morning, Naruto finally dozed off, resting his head on Kushina's shoulder. He appeared worn out, which was understandable given how quickly he had arrived. She smiled and cleared a space for him to rest. He smiled even as he mumbled, in his sleep. Kushina grinned as well, with a single thought predominating. My home is wherever he may be. Naruto awoke the following morning in a state of confusion. He was on the bed by himself. Blearily, he glanced around and saw his mother standing in a robe over her gown, close to the window. He mumbled, URG. Kushina turned around and grinned, saying, I think I need to eat something. Mom, he cried out. With relief, he remarked, so last night wasn't a dream. He pushed himself off the bed and said, I'm glad. I need to bathe and eat. Taking a white box from close by, she declared, today I'm being discharged. Finally. I don't like being cooped up. Not after such a long confinement. It was donuts. I told Tsunade this morning about my decision. She doesn't blame me. You're going to catch up on some sleep before we even think about leaving though. Before beginning to eat, he uttered the words hastily, yes, of course. She grabbed a bag from the nearby bathroom and said, Tsunade will let us stay at her place until then. I'm going to change into some normal clothes and we can get out of this depressing place. As she closed the door, she said, and save some of those for me, here? The spot where his mother had kissed him the previous evening was touched by Naruto. He grinned. He was eager for everyone to meet her. He inhaled deeply, picked up his bag, and sat down on the bed to wait calmly. As she left, wearing a forest green shirt and black capri pants, she remarked, that feels better. Everything is ready to go. I didn't want to wake you up. Your sleeping face was really peaceful. Naruto extended the donut box toward her. He grinned and said, saved y'all some. Now I believe you said something about leaving this depressing place? The way this all feels now is funny. Standing on the deck of the boat that was transporting him to the Land of Spring, Naruto pondered. I went to the Land of Spring for the first time with the same captain and the same boat. He chuckled aloud, recalling how anxious and melancholy he had been at the time. He even recalled going overboard after being tackled by that lone rogue nin. Since Kushina was still recuperating and required a lot of rest, they had waited a week before departing. They were also nearly at home. All Naruto could hope for was that they received his letter on time, informing them that he and his mother were headed home. Someone said, what are you thinking about? From behind him. When Naruto saw it was his mother, he jumped. Since all of her equipment had long since been lost, she had acquired some new items before they left. Uneasy, he said, shouldn't you be resting? You're still recovering. I'm fine now that I can move around and get fresh air, she reassured. You had an interesting look on your face. Gazing out at the ocean they were sailing on, he replied, remembering some things. First off, this was the original ship and captain that we had when we came to the land of spring. Also, Gaara got seasick as soon as the boat started to move. He cracked a joke. When you see Gaara, you'll understand. I also remember the rogue ninjas who attacked this ship when we were on it. Kushina laughed and remarked, must have been quite a fight. He pointed to a reinforced steel gate and said, it was. We weren't really having any problems actually. But then the leader of the rogue nins decided to charge me. We hit the gate. And it was a lot weaker then. It broke under our weight and we both went overboard. The water was really cold then, not warm like it is now. After we docked, Yukie and Shion met us at the docks and made us feel accepted. Kushina was also beaming with pride. Your friends sound important to you, she replied. They are. And so is my team of genins. I've only been gone for about 2 weeks, but I miss them. I wonder how far they've come. Gaara said he would supervise their training, but I'm still curious. Naruto agreed. My siblings are really cool too. Gaara is dating Shion. Shion isn't a ninja. But she can see into the future, which has come in handy a lot of times. Ladies and gents, we'll be docking in the land of spring in about 5 minutes. Please have your luggage ready to go and be prepared to exit the boat. The captain spoke through the intercom. Naruto ran to their room below deck and grabbed their belongings, saying, I'll go grab our stuff. He smiled and backed up on deck. He said aloud to no one in particular, it's good to be home. Reunited with Kushina, he watched the land draw nearer. The ramp was lowered as the boat eventually drifted to a stop. Kushina surveyed the area in wonder. The land of spring was breathtakingly gorgeous. The streets were also kept clear and clean. All in all, it was a really pleasant place to live. A loud voice said, Naruto, you're back. Shion pouted and remarked, though it's a bit early. We were planning on surprising you too. She shrugged either way, saying, darn. Tamari is cooking up something good in that kitchen of yours. Kankuro has been banned from the kitchen. But Kina is helping Tamari, same with Hinata. Naruto said, alrighty. Shion leapt from the carriage she was riding in and ran up to the two Uzumakis, saying, Shion, meet my mom. She said cheerfully, hello, I'm Shion. It's nice to meet you, Ms. Uzumaki. She held out her hand. I'd like to be the first to welcome you here. Naruto didn't, so here I am doing it. The queen also sends her greetings, but is unable to meet with you at the moment. Kushina shook her hand and said, call me Kushina, and thank you for welcoming me here. She opened the door and allowed them to enter first, explaining, well, I arranged for a carriage today. Come on. Everyone's waiting at your house. When they were inside, she rapped on the front of the carriage, and it began to move slowly. They soon reached the house after it accelerated. Naruto came out to assist Shion and his mother. He exclaimed, well, here we are. Let's go meet everyone. He opened the door and picked up both of their bags. As they walked in, everyone looked up. Calmly sipping a cup of tea. Gaara sat at the table. He gave them a startled glance. He called out, everyone, they're here. The room was suddenly packed with people as there was a flurry of foot traffic. Hinata, Kina, and Tamari emerged from the kitchen. Kina rushed up to give Naruto a kiss on the lips. Stowing some strings in a pocket, Kankuro emerged from the lower level. Mom, let me introduce everyone. This lovely girl is my girlfriend, Kina, he replied. He gestured toward Gaara. And that's Gaara. The blonde is Tamari, and the big guy is Kankuro. Those three are my siblings. And the other girl is my childhood friend Hinata Hyuga. Everyone gave a bow when they were mentioned. Guys, this is my mom, Kushina Uzumaki. She replied, it's nice to meet you all. Please, just call me Kushina. After all you have done for my only child, I have much to repay. Tamari promised, no repayment necessary. Naruto, after all, is our brother. Would you like to eat some dinner? We girls fixed it, so it's not only edible but good, she reassured. Tamari chuckled and ushered everyone to the table, saying, the boys can't cook to save their own lives. If it were up to Naruto, he would only eat ramen. Gaara called out, hey, Naruto. Did you find some of the answers you were looking for? Asked Gaara. And a room has been prepared for her as well. Naruto answered, I found those answers and more. I'm glad that she is still alive. She chose to live with me. Come to think of it, Yukie wanted to meet her. Tomorrow, I should bring her to meet Yukie. He grinned. But I want to make sure she rests first. Kankuro called from the kitchen, Naruto, Gaara, would you come on? At that moment. How are we supposed to celebrate Naruto and Kushina's good fortune if Naruto is not here with us? he asked. Gaara and Naruto joined the group. They were only vaguely aware of Akatsuki. They were happy with this alone for the time being. They were undoubtedly alarmed by Akatsuki, but that would be discussed later. The following morning, Kushina got up early, more by habit than choice. The night before, she had also slept quite well. Not wanting to wake anyone in the house, she stole some clothes from her unpacked bag and slipped into the bathroom. Outside, the sun was just beginning to rise. She quickly showered, dressed, and returned to her room. She quickly brushed her hair, wishing she hadn't had to cut it so short. After retrieving her brush from her bag, she went to the kitchen after putting on some socks. A male voice said, "Ms. Uzumaki, you're up already?" Gaara was sitting at the table, still dressed from the day before, when Kushina turned to look at him. She sat down at the table across from him and said, "Yes, I slept well last night, but what about you? Did you not go to sleep at all?" He informed her, "I can only sleep a few hours at a time." He asked, "You do know what Naruto has in him, right?" Kushina gave a nod. "I am like him. But while his drawback is it shortens his life if he uses too much of the Kyuubi's power, mine is that I can't really sleep. Otherwise Shukaku will take over my body." Curious, Kushina inquired, "Then how do you manage to stay awake?" "I've learned to get light sleep when I can. It was hard when I was younger, but it works fine now," he continued. "And I'm sorry that no food has been prepared yet. It's just that the boys aren't allowed to cook in the kitchen. Tamari would kill me if she found that I nearly blew up the kitchen again." Gaara gave her shocked question a humorous nod. "Again?" she asked. Ignoring Gaara's protests that she didn't have to, Kushina got up and said, "Well, I know how to cook. Naruto's father was always hungry, so I always made him a variety of food. I'll cook this morning, as my thanks for letting me stay here." She found some pancake batter in the kitchen. As they came downstairs, someone remarked, "Something smells good." When Kushina looked up, Tamari was coming toward them. "Good. It's not Gaara cooking. But I could have easily done that," she replied. "No, I like to cook. Actually, I want to do this especially for Naruto. If he's anything like his father, he'll love pancakes. Especially my blueberry pancakes." Kushina replied. "Besides, after how long I've been gone, I need to try and make up for lost time," she groaned. Tamari replied, "That wasn't anything you could help." Tamari poured herself some juice from the refrigerator and sat down, saying, "Besides, it's the thought that counts to us around here. But if you really want to, go ahead. That really is smelling good." Gaara chuckled when she said, "All we need now is Naruto. But I wouldn't be surprised if he slept late today." Naruto, dressed in his typical black and orange boxers and a simple white shirt, came downstairs and said, "Hey, why sleep? Even if Mom wasn't here, we still have another big problem to discuss. What will we be doing about Akatsuki? We Jinchuriki won't stand for this place being damaged and people being hurt or killed because of us." From the kitchen, Kushina inquired, "Someone is after you and Gaara because of what you have in you?" Naruto gave a nod. "And Kina as well. She has one as well, one of the reasons we are so good for each other. We had similar lives before we came here, so we understand each other really as well." He laughed and then sighed. "Seriously, are we working with Yukie and the council on a plan of defense? The genin should not be allowed to even consider fighting in this. They would be better to act as guards for the civilians should they need to be evacuated. We could always issue a former challenge and draw them away from the city," Gaara said aloud. Gaara remained silent as he recalled the fight, saying, "It worked last time. Though we need to avoid the generator at all costs and try not to damage the area further. It's still recovering from the fight we had there a few years ago. It really did take some damage, from both sides who participated in the conflict." After hearing the final few minutes of their conversation, Kankuro explained that Kushina's interest in this must have been reflected in her eyes as he descended the stairs. Kina lost control of her demon. She was only 10 at the time. We had the help of 2 others, both Jinchurikis who were trying to save her, not wanting to destroy her like everyone else was. We succeeded in returning to normal. But then Naruto, who also was not very much older than Kina and even worse at controlling his, also lost control and we had to get him back to normal. Kushina finished cooking and brought it to the table, asking, "Oh dear, was everyone okay?" Well, Tamari sighed, "It all ended well." Kina, who had passed out after returning to normal, woke up and stunned Naruto senseless with a very powerful screech. Though, by that time, I had attacked him in order to try and get him to stay still and he was already severely burned by the fox's chakra. Naruto gave a grimace. Naruto remarked hastily, "But everything was fine in the end." Naruto hurried to answer the door when someone knocked. A minute later, he returned, followed by Yukie. Kushina shook hands with Yukie, saying, "Mom, this is Yukie, queen of this land, also a famous actress. Yukie, this is my mom, Kushina." Yukie said sweetly, "It's nice to finally meet you in person." Yukie sniffed the air and said, "And you don't need to be formal with me. My friends call me Yukie. Blueberry pancakes? Mhhh. I love those. But I don't know anyone who can even make halfway decent ones. Then would you like to have some? I wasn't sure on how many to make, so I made a lot." Kushina accepted the invitation. They need to get eaten somehow. Yukie said, "If it's no bother." Tamari cleared space at the table by dragging a chair into the kitchen from the living room. "So, what are you planning on doing now? You're free. And I don't think you're the type to just be content with sitting around doing nothing, if your son is anything to judge by." Kushina passed around some butter and syrup and remarked, "For now, I just want to get my old strength back. So some training first. And after that, hopefully, I'll be able to get employment as a ninja here. After all, I spent my whole life training as a ninja. Why stop now?" Kushina chuckled. Speaking of ninjas. Yukie's voice was abrupt. She gave it to Naruto after taking a scroll out of her jacket. After reading the scroll, a bewildered Naruto became angry, sad, and hurt. "This arrived for you. I believe that is from Kira. What is it?" Yukie quietly inquired. Yugito stumbled out. Yugito is dead. Except for Kushina, everyone knew who she was. Gaara was so shocked that he dropped his knife and fork. Naruto slammed the scroll onto the table, saying, "Akatsuki pursued her and managed to extract the demon from her, killing her in the process." They could hear his sobs as he lowered his head to his arm. Kushina stood up and gave her son a hug, saying, "What do they want with us? Why does everyone automatically pick on us? It's not as if we chose this life. And why did Yugito die just because of them removing her demon? It's not fair." Naruto froze as Kushina calmed him, saying, "Shush. There has never been a demon removal without the death of the host. Your father wanted to know why and he did find out. From the moment of sealing, a symbiotic relationship is created. The demon can't survive without the host. Obviously because it depends on the host's body or else it dies. But also likewise, the host's body bonds to the demon. If the demon is removed, the host dies. It's like taking the heart out of a human being while still alive. We can't survive without a heart." With a determined expression in his swollen eyes, Naruto released himself from the embrace. Naruto swore, "Akatsuki will not get away with this, believe it." Kiana was still in tears. She had learned 2 hours prior that Yugito had been killed by Akatsuki. In order to check on Naruto, she was now going to his house. When they had come to this land to bring Kira back to normal, Yugito and Kira had regularly stayed in touch after they had left. However, Naruto had already left by the time she arrived, engaging in some intense training to help him relax. It had been more than an hour since he left. Kushina had also accompanied him to resume her training. Also probably to make sure he doesn't hurt himself. "Naruto is really hurting right now. He asked me to tell you that he's sorry he's not here though," Tamari said with consideration. Gaara was up in his room, feeling very depressed right now. Gaara is up in his room as well. Yugito, Naruto, and Gaara were really close. "Yeah, I know. We all had a special bond, especially Yugito with us, as she is a fellow jinchuriki. I don't understand what that group wants with the demons though. If they had just wanted to destroy them, they could have done this publicly and gotten respect and credit for it. After all, we're only monsters. But no, they don't do this either. They have a bigger agenda." Kiana looked perplexed. "I've also heard that every member of that group is a missing nin from some shinobi village. The leader's name isn't even known, let alone anything else about him." Kiana was upset. Fearing for her son's health, Kushina screamed, "Naruto, you're pushing yourself too fast." He had been training with all of his might for the last 45 minutes, recklessly putting his own safety in jeopardy. He had initially acclimatized himself gradually to the intense training. Then all of a sudden, he began to lose his mind after she noticed a flash of red in his eyes. There was nothing else she could say. His eyes were red and slitted now, and he looked wild and hurt. Kushina gave a harsh command, saying, "Naruto, relax and calm down." Ignoring her, Naruto persisted in destroying the training area because he was only interested in his training. Then, as he continued to beat the training dummies, he began to cry, soft, slow tears. Kushina remarked, "Naruto, keep in mind that you are not alone." He jerked back when she reached out to touch his arm, saying, "We all feel a similar feeling right now." "No, I should have known. I should have been able to do something." He persisted in punching the dummy viciously, his fist shaking. Before he could attack the training dummy anymore, a line of sand shot around his wrists. I should have been there. What kind of friend am I? What kind of friend allows this to happen? He exclaimed. Knowing who was in charge, Naruto and Kushina used their eyes to track the sand. Gaara whispered, Naruto, stop. As Naruto made a feeble attempt to break free from the sand's hold, his whole body shook. The sand remained solid. Gaara shortened the sand connection that held the two jinchuriki together and said, You're only hurting yourself this way. Not only that, you're making others worry about you. Now, please, calm down. Look at your condition right now, and the condition of that around you. The intense red slits in Naruto's eyes subsided and returned to their typical human shape. He looked at his hands, which had been bloody from his fury only moments before. He was aware of how labored his breathing was and how his whole body burned from the effort he put into it. As he scanned the training area, he noticed that the majority of the training dummies were destroyed, either in pieces or with large holes in them. His fist's worth of holes. They were also splattered with blood. His blood was on them. Shocked, he dropped to his knees. With pity, he asked himself, what did I just do? His eyes went back to their typical blue. I'm no better than the Kyuubi like this. Gaara let Naruto's wrists be free of sand. Gaara explained gently, you just let out some pent-up emotions. But there are much healthier ways to do so. Don't hold your feelings in. His chest now trembled from the intensity of his sobs. But, Yugito, I should have been there. I should have tried to stop them and stop her dying. Kushina encircled Naruto with an arm. Kushina informed him, that was out of your control. Naruto barely managed a nod through his tears and pushed his weary body to his feet. How were you supposed to know what was going on? If they would have known about it, the others would not have let her face this alone. But we had no way of knowing. Let's say we go home now? And treat your injuries? He asked. Then he croaked, right. Then Naruto fell to the ground. Kushina and Gaara exclaimed, Naruto, as they just managed to keep him from colliding with the ground. After placing him on his back, they examined his face. It was drawn and pale. Gaara pulled one of Naruto's arms around his neck, half holding up Naruto's fallen form and half pulling, saying, we need to take him to the hospital. They hurried as quickly as they could to the hospital after Kushina grabbed the other half of him. They eventually arrived. Naruto was taken from them, and they waited in the lobby while the doctor gave them an explanation. Kushina said, I'll go tell the others what happened. Gaara nodded, and Kushina hurried outside. Stay here and wait for the doctor. After a few minutes, a physician came up to him. Your friend passed out from a combination of stress and high blood pressure, he informed Gaara. I would like to keep him overnight. But right now I need to know what was stressing him out so much. He just found out that his mother was alive and he pushed himself to get to her quickly. Not only that, he found out that someone may be after his life, and this morning he found that a good friend of ours died. Then he took the training too far and injured himself. Which is when he passed out after we finally got him calmed down. Gaara continued. Well, he's sleeping now. He has an IV right now to help him rest and to lower his blood pressure. The best thing for him right now is rest. I would also like to start him on some medicine for his high blood pressure soon. I can tell he doesn't take a lot of stress well, which can have serious side effects on his health. People can go in to see him. Just let him rest. The doctor gave his approval. Gaara gave a nod. When the doctor left, Gaara went to the on-duty receptionist. Do you remember the woman I came in with? He inquired. Yes, I do. Would you like me to tell her when she comes back where you are? She replied gently. Gaara replied, yes, please. And thank you. The receptionist looked at the computers and asked, what room is my friend in? She replied, he's in room 306, on the 3rd floor. Gaara thanked her once more and rode the elevator to the 3rd floor, where she found room 306 with ease. I'll be sure pass on your message. He sat down next to the bed after quietly opening the door. With one arm out with an IV and the other under the covers, Naruto was still asleep. He remained pale. His face, however, was no longer drawn. He was soundly asleep. Making a mental note to get some flowers for the room, Gaara sighed and waited for the others to arrive. At one point, Naruto wrote that he detested hospitals and was depressed by their stark whiteness. After a few minutes, Temari, Kina, Kushina, Shion, and Konkuro entered. Kina was carrying a big vase filled with vibrant flowers. Kina sat down beside Gaara and asked, what's the problem? Gaara responded, a combination of stress and high blood pressure. Everything that's happened as of late built up. And he developed high blood pressure from that. The doc wants to start him on some meds soon for that problem. Kushina said, High blood pressure runs in the family. They fell silent, with each of them occasionally turning to look at Naruto. On both sides too. I'm putting together a medical history for Naruto, so he knows what to expect from now on. It was finally time for a visit. He only allowed one person to spend the night with him, according to someone. For this, Kushina was elected. Tamari said, "We'll see you in the morning. Hopefully he'll be awake by then." Kushina looked down at her sleeping child and said, "Same hope here." Silently, the door closed. "Son, I really hope you'll be okay." Naruto spent the whole night asleep. He was dazed and disoriented when he woke up in the morning. He felt his arm being pulled as he sat up. He noticed an IV entering one of his veins when he looked down. He checked his surroundings to confirm his suspicion. He was in a medical facility. His mother was also present, contentedly slumbering in a chair. He moaned as a headache began to develop. He said out loud, "What happened that ended up with me?" He saw that his hands were also covered in bandages. Kushina opened her eyes and stirred. When she saw him awake, she grinned broadly. "Thank goodness you're awake," she said, yawning and sitting up. She hurried out of the room and came back a few minutes later with a white-coated blonde man behind her. "You passed because you let the stress build up and high blood pressure, which runs in the family, decided to show itself. The doctor wanted to check on you when you woke up. I'll go get him, hold on." The man stood up and said, "I'm Dr. Hikari." Naruto gave it a shake. "Now, I'm sure Ms. Uzumaki has already told you how you ended up here. I would like to start you on some medication for your high blood pressure, and that can get bad if you don't watch it. And ninjas led very stressful lives. I've carefully picked the one I would like you to start taking. So I know it will not affect your ninja abilities in any way that I can tell. You have my word on it." Then Naruto said, "Okay." He said, "I'll listen to that." Naruto twiddled his thumbs and said, "But when will I be able to leave? I really don't like hospitals." The physician grinned. "Many people share that testament. If nothing goes wrong, you'll be allowed to leave this evening. But now, I must go finish my rounds. Some more of your friends are outside the door waiting to see you though." He left the space. Shien, Kushina, Kina, Tamari, and Kankuro entered. Naruto gave a sheepish greeting, "Hey, guys." As everyone else found seats around the room, Kina took a seat next to him on the bed and said, "I'm sorry if I worried you all." Kina placed her head on his shoulder and whispered, "Just make sure it doesn't happen again. I was really worried when Kushina came back and told us about what happened." Naruto kissed the top of her hair and assured her, "It won't. I'll be making sure to properly take care of myself from now on." Kina grinned broadly at this, finally bringing some color to her pale, tear-stained face. "If everything goes well, I'll be able to leave this evening." With a playful command, Kina said, "Then don't get worked up again." Naruto grinned and said he would relax. "And when you come back, I'll cook a special dinner for us all, as a welcome back kind of thing for you." Gaara placed a folded pile of clothes on the end of his bed and said, "Naruto, I brought some of your clothes from home. That way you can come in wearing clean clothes." For that, Naruto said, "Thanks. So, how have you guys been?" Tamari responded from her seat close to the end of the bed, "We're getting along. Of course, once we're assured that our brother is fine, we'll be a lot better." She sighed. "But we all need some serious R&R soon. What do everyone say to going on vacation soon?" Kankuro stated, "We'd have to work on that with our teams. After all, we should leave some experienced ninja here. You never know what will happen." Naruto remarked, "Maybe not a vacation. A free day, inviting our teams as well. That way we can know that we are available if needed but we can still relax." And Kushina said, "That's a good plan. So who will handle what?" Shien said, "We can talk about that later." However, Shien omitted to mention that he was also coming to assist with Akatsuki's situation for apparent reasons. Besides, Kira is on his way here. He's taking some time off and wants to catch up with us. So he's currently traveling to see us. It would be easy enough to bring that up later. Later that night, Naruto returned home. He was carrying a month's supply of prescription medication, which he was to take every day. Additionally, he was advised to watch his diet because certain foods exacerbated high blood pressure. Similar cries could be heard everywhere, "Hurry, don't worry about your possessions. For now just get to the shelters." Late into the night, two enemies had attacked the land of Spring. Numerous soldiers jumped into action to assist with the civilian evacuations, saying, "Please don't panic. Just stay calm." They weren't fighting the enemies for one major reason. One of them had made a ball of fire and hurled it at a structure, causing it to catch fire. The shout of "Ninja!" had increased. Humanoid shapes were also observed leaping from rooftop to rooftop as the fireball exploded. One of the attacking ninjas sarcastically remarked, "Pathetic." It was a female. She had a flower in her hair and was dressed in black robes with red clouds on them. Another, dressed in the same robes, remarked, "That's not the point. This man was the only one with blue skin and what appeared to be gills on his cheeks. We're just drawing them out. They won't let their precious home be damaged too much further." An irate voice screamed, "Get away from those people," before rushing in and putting himself between the evacuating civilians and the enemies. Kushina, Hinata, escort the genins and help with the evacuations. In support of Naruto, Tamari stated, "Naruto, Kankuro will help with the evacuation as well." Without averting his gaze from his adversaries, Naruto nodded. The woman said scornfully, "We have no interest in those boring and weak people. I apologize if I wrote this incorrectly. I have no idea what Konan's true personality is like. All we wanted was you. Give up your demons now." Naruto struggled to control his temper. "And let you continue with your plotting and kill us in the process? No way." Naruto broke down in tears. Naruto cursed the fact that he was in town and had to take care not to cause more harm to the area, saying, "But we will fight you, just to prevent you from hurting these people in their homes further." He needed to get them out of town. He could use his more potent jutsu and put an end to this quickly that way. "And don't you think I forgot you, Kisame? I remember you." Kisame sarcastically remarked, "Ah, I'm touched." Kisame moved into attack, saying, "I'm also sure you remember my sword. Samahata missed you as well. Konan, go find the other two jinchuriki and deal with them." Konan roared, "Don't order me around." After a brief struggle of strength between Naruto and Kisame, Konan took off in a different direction, saying, "Remember that pain placed me in charge me during this little excursion." They ended up tied, with Kisame defensively holding his sword in front of him as they both leapt away at the same moment. "You've gotten stronger, brat. You're no longer the weakling you were when we encountered you the first time. Let's see how much stronger," taunted Kisame. Naruto used two kunai, crisscrossed, to block the incoming sword attack. As the two metal sources collided, sparks flew and Naruto demanded, "What did we do to you? Why do you want what's inside us so badly? Isn't there a safer way to remove them?" The grunt of Kisame said, "No, there ain't. We need them to make the new ultimate kinkutsu. Also, Pain swears that all our dreams will come true when we make that kinjutsu. That's why we go after you guys. Only 4 remain that aren't with us. The 9 tails, the 6 tails, the 1 tail, and the 8 tails. Who's going to go next with us, huh?" Kisame cracked a wide grin. Naruto pulled his hand from behind his back to reveal a fully formed Rasengan with a reddish tint. "We won't let you get away with this. Not only what you are doing to all us jinchuriki, but also for taking a precious friend from us." It was blocked by Kisame, and Naruto smiled fiercely. Kisame proudly remarked, "That won't work, kid. Samahata can't be beat with a simple Rasengan." Smugly, Naruto said, "Oh really?" Kisame looked at Samahata and made fun of Naruto by saying, "Take a closer look at your sword." His face changed from triumphant to astonished. A massive crack ran straight down the middle of the blade as Samahata cracked. "Wah! What did you do to my sword?" Kisame yelled angrily as the blade's top half broke off and crashed to the ground. Samahata. Since he joined the Mist's 7 swordsmen, Samahata had accompanied him constantly. Samahata appeared to be rusted and in appalling shape, as though Kisame had neglected the blade for years. The Kyuubi no Kitsune's chakra can be altered a bit to make it corrosive. It's really quite simple. In just a few moments your precious blade is broken beyond repair. Naruto clarified. Using his strongest taijutsu and forming a Rasengan in both hands, Naruto said menacingly, "And now for you." He slammed both Rasengans into the Sharkman's chest as he suddenly appeared in front of Kisame. "Wah!" Kisame was able to escape before he was unable to speak anymore, coughing up a large volume of blood as his left lung and heart failed to withstand the strain. As Kisame fell, his beady eyes vacant, Naruto's shirt was splattered with Kisame's blood. He heard someone yell frantically, "Naruto! Sensei!" When Naruto heard Fiore's voice, he turned around. "Help!" Naruto hurried to the location where he heard the voice and entered just in time to prevent his team and the bystanders from being struck by the nearby collapsing wall. Naruto gave the order, "Hurry up and move. This ain't exactly light." Fiore, Takaru, and Suzuki scurried out of the way as they ordered the civilians to move aside. With a much-needed power boost from the Kyuubi, Naruto was able to finally heave the wall away from them. He gasped, a little exhausted from supporting such a large wall, even for a brief moment, and said, "Get them to a shelter. It's getting bad out here." Fiore answered, Yes, sensei. Everyone quickened their pace as the speaker said, we need to move faster. Please hurry to the nearest shelter. Don't panic and stay together, Naruto said, sensing a nearby chakra flare. Be careful. Naruto yelled, pushing his student out of the way. A sword made of paper pierced his abdomen, making him spit up blood. Get them out of here. Fury pushed the crowds aside. A disembodied voice said, too bad they're associated with you. They'll be the ones to pay, not you. The sword broke into numerous pieces of paper, which now formed a large number of shuriken and kunai. No. You're looking for me. Knowing his students had no chance, Naruto pleaded frantically. The woman said icily, directing the paper weapons at his students, too bad. No. Naruto yelled, unable to reach them in time. The kids had blocked the weapon's path, taking all the hits themselves so the civilians would be safe. Fury had taken the worst of the hits. The other two had only been knocked unconscious, evident by their even breathing. But Fiore's eyes were blank, her body surrounded by a pool of her own blood, her chest still. Fury. You? Naruto roared, turning towards Konan, his eyes going slit and turning red. His incisor teeth grew into fangs, his fingernails becoming claws. His eyes became heavily outlined in black, a red chakra encasing his entire body, ending with a red chakra tail. You'll pay for that. With tears in his eyes, he screamed. Before Fury could finish her sentence, Naruto was in front of her, punching her so forcefully that she flew and landed at least 50 feet away. Oh no. The plan did not include this. Konan objected as she slowly stood up, feeling her ribs, which were broken by a single blow. Pain. Sama won't like this, she said. But I don't think I can take on 3 jinchuriki by myself, plus their allies. With her decision made, she turned to run, but was blocked. Konan looked around and saw that practically every ninja in the land of spring was encircling her. She was so screwed that she fell back to her knees in shock. I'll be the one to order the surrender this time, Naruto vowed. You and Kisame won't get away with what you have done. Are you going to comply? Naruto was now on his hands and knees, his body covered in red chakra. Naruto, I know an easier way to extract the information that we want, Kushina said. May I? Konan remained silent. What is it? With a cold, resolute expression in his eyes and tears that had stopped falling, Naruto asked. Kushina replied, I download all the information in her mind, a jutsu. Kushina nodded and approached, saying, do it. Kushina said, I need someone to keep her still. Konan's movement was essentially stopped by Gaara's sand covering her body. Thank you. Additionally, someone must force her to maintain her forward gaze. Naruto put a hand on each side of her head and walked forward, saying, I'll do it. Now be a good girl and look ahead. That, or I'll do to you what I did to Samahata. Kushina made some hand gestures, and her eyes glowed, and Konan, who was made to look forward, fought despite her paleness. No. As her eyes started to glow too, Konan screamed, and her screams filled the night. After a few more minutes, their eyes returned to normal, and Kushina collapsed to her knees, gasping. Konan stopped her struggle, and she now had dead looking eyes and a motionless chest. Everyone watched as this happened. Kushina informed them, I also killed her as I left. Her brain stopped working, if not, she would have simply caused more destruction. Naruto helped his mother stand up. What's wrong? The body of the dead woman fell to the ground with a solemn finality as the sand released her head. Observing his swollen eyes, she inquired. Naruto gestured to the area where his team was lying. There is no danger to the two of them who are still alive. But Fury. He was unable to complete the phrase. Kushina made some more hand gestures and said, First, let me help you with something. The wind whirled around Naruto, and his body returned to normal, causing him to slump to the ground. Someone help the two still alive, Kushina said. Additionally, Fiore's body was placed in a secure location. Inform the civilians that they can return home without risk. We ninja won't be sleeping for long if any of them require assistance. However, I have to sit down soon, write down what I've learned, and practice jutsu to clear my mind of the knowledge. Please assemble if you are hurt, and we will do our best. After stumbling to his feet, Naruto picked up Takaru and carried him to Kushina, while Kina picked up Suzuki and followed suit. Kushina treated the most severe wounds and turned to Naruto, who silently lifted up his shirt to see that his wound had already healed and nodded to him before moving on to the next wounded. Naruto and the others divided into 2 groups, one of which located the wounded, both civilian and ninja, while the other group began cleaning up the most severe damage. Fiore's family is here, Naruto. Kina whispered. They want to take her body home and entomb her there. Where are they? He inquired. Kiana gestured, and Naruto approached. I apologize. Naruto muttered, I don't know what else to say. I tried everything I could to stop her, but I couldn't save her. How did she pass away? Said the oldest man. Naruto responded, she died protecting the civilians. Konan threw a huge cluster of shuriken and kunai in the direction of the civilians. The blows were blocked by my team. No civilians were harmed. Fury did not survive, but the other two are still alive. And in terms of work, what is a ninja expected to do? Did he ask? If they are on a mission, they should exert every effort to finish it. However, if they are defending their home village, they must do everything within their power to keep their home and its inhabitants safe, Naruto informed the man. My daughter did the right thing and died bravely. These people are not harmed or killed because of her. Not only that, but she achieved her original goal. When she was young, she vowed to do everything within her power to keep this place safe. Of course, we will miss her. The man said solemnly, but she died doing the right thing, and we hold only those who were attacking her responsible for her death. Naruto remarked, there is a polished rock in my old village. It's a monument. That stone bears the names of all those who lost their lives on a mission or in the service of Konoha. I'm going to discuss setting up something similar here with the queen. Her name will be engraved on the monument if that occurs. Neither her sacrifice nor anyone else's will be forgotten, and I promise you that. I'm grateful. We are a military family. We are aware that we could pass away at any time. However, that doesn't mean we don't grieve for the deceased. We will also never forget her. So far, she had been happy with her life. However, we are grateful that no one will forget her. We'll send you word on when we hold the ceremony, he said, removing his robe and wrapping it around his daughter. Trying not to lose his cool, Naruto said, thank you. Kushina approached him as he left, saying, that was the hardest thing I ever had to do. I was aware that one of my teammates would eventually perish while on a mission. However, I didn't anticipate it happening so quickly. We can learn from this, but Kushina concurred, it's never easy. And we can get stronger as we heal. Fury would also prefer that. I know. Naruto remarked jokingly, and I'll keep that in mind going forward. As our lives progress and we become more resilient, we will never forget.
So that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the channel for more awesome stories like this. Thank you. See you all in my next video.